Consequence Podcast Network.
How dare you, Mikey?
This episode brought to you by Nick B.
My fun fact about Nick B is that one of our other fans in the Facebook group, Beth, has a little boy who's like 6. She listens to the podcast in front of, which I don't recommend.
Yeah, I don't. We are
But
not
hey,
for
we're
children.
not here to judge your
Yeah,
parenting.
exactly. You know, you do you,
Yeah.
but it's a fucking bad idea.
Anyway, the kid loves Nick B because that's how we started every episode. And then, with this whole global pandemic stuff, people have been sending video messages on the
Facebook group. That's
Yeah.
been awesome. I've
So
loved that.
Her son's been talking to Nick B, and he's been talking back, and it's like super cute.
Wait, through video messages?
Yeah.
Aw,
I know.
that's so sweet.
It is really sweet.
Guys, join the Facebook group. This episode also brought to you by Spider Tom.
Spider Tom sounds like the name of someone who works at a carnival.
All right. So this week I got the Brazilian wandering spider. The Brazilian wandering spider is a large brown spider similar to North American wolf spiders.
Wolf spiders jump.
What? No.
Mikey,
I
fun
don't.
fact.
I can't have that knowledge in my brain.
Well, this spider apparently just wanders around aimlessly.
But they're bigger and possessing a more toxic venom. It has the most neurologically active venom of all spiders and is regarded as the most dangerous spider in the world.
Really? I've
Yep.
never heard of it.
Well, that's because it was right behind you the whole time. Brazilian wandering spiders are active hunters and travel a lot. So, they're coming to your town.
You just see one smoking on a Greyhound bus, like
He's got his suitcase with the stickers on it.
exactly.
Yeah.
I've been everywhere, man.
I'm looking for work.
Seen all kinds of spiders. They tend to crawl into cozy, comfortable places for the night and sometimes crawl into fruits and flowers that humans consume and cultivate.
What? This episode also brought to you by Rebecca. Do you have your movie-themed pickup line, Mikey?
I have a virus-themed pickup line.
Okay.
Mm.
I'm nodding my head, but
I mean,
I'm very scared.
with current events and
Sure.
the movie.
Sure. Yeah.
Hey, Rebecca,
Ooh.
why don't you come over and we'll become a quarantine?
Aw.
I love this. Oh, wow. All right. Well,
And if you are on a quarantine
Yeah.
and need an outfit to wear that
Absolutely.
matches, get some Disney ears.
Straight on Tell Disney.
Yeah, when
on
they open
Etsy.
the parks back up, you can take them back over there.
Yeah. This episode also brought to you by
Ryan. So Ryan keeps calling work meetings where I have to look presentable. And now that I'm working all day long.
Oh, do you mean like Skype work meetings or like
Yeah.
Zoom meetings? Yeah.
Mm-hmm,
Jen, as a proper lady, you should always look presentable.
Hey, so Ryan makes really misogynistic comments when I'm trying to do my Patreon stuff.
This took a turn real quick. Wow. This episode also brought to you by Matt.
Hey, Matt.
And Matt is from Sweden, and he wanted us to say some Swedish facts.
Okay.
So here's one for you. Swedish parents are entitled to 480 days of paid parental leave, and of those, 60 days are reserved for the father. In 2012, dads used 24% of total parental leave.
That sounds amazing.
So they have
That's cool.
480 days of paid parental leave.
Hey, America.
Yeah,
what,
how much?
What are you
Jen,
doing?
you've had 2 kids, right? How many
Uh-huh.
have you? How many days do you guys get?
I got 8 weeks because I had C-section.
And
I
that
would've had
is-
6 if not. And that's just for me.
Well, I actually, with my new promotion,
I know.
I get 12 weeks paid paternal leave.
Now you just got to find someone to.
I just had to knock somebody
Yeah,
up.
listen, Mikey is single and looking to mingle ladies.
Well, maybe you can find a nice Swedish girl.
I would love that.
Get to the Orgaborgen.
Now it's time for another episode of The Patreonicals.
If you remember last week,
Yeah.
the Sunny D virus has broken out.
Yeah. Sunny D19.
It was Isaac's plan to eat more people and to get stronger to defeat Matthew.
Right.
But the Sunny D virus has grown out of control and turned into a
Uh-oh.
global pandemic.
Oh, man.
Riots in the street, fires. Shit's gotten
Stuff's gotten bad.
more like the world we live in now.
Yeah. It's funny how it's dovetailing.
Yeah.
Eddie has created a magical animal sanctuary
Oh,
where he has gone to
lovely.
retreat for the virus. Isaac has finally confronted Matthew.
Okay.
Yeah, he says, Matthew, you killed my brother, if you remember.
Prepare to
Prepare to
die.
die.
Prepare
Yeah.
to die. Uh-huh.
I do remember that.
It's a thrilling fight.
Uh-oh.
Picture it in your head. It's like the Matrix stuff.
Ooh.
Right. Agent Smith versus Neo.
Uh-huh. Isaac has consumed 1,000 people.
That's a lot of people and a very specific round number.
Yeah.
Well, he
It's like it's not real.
He's a man who achieves his goals.
That's right. He had it on his Fitbit.
That's what it
That was
was.
his goal. He got to get
Gotta
his
hit
peeps
those
in
people
today.
steps. Yeah.
when he confronts Matthew, he destroys the Mary Poppins umbrella.
What? Oh my God.
Beginning.
Holy
he takes
shit.
it and he snaps it in two.
How will we fly?
How will we time travel? How will we track teeth?
How will we bring people back to
How will
life?
we dispense Kleenexes?
I know. These are the questions.
This is the end of the Patrioticals.
What?
Oh, it feels like it.
Oh. Oh my God. That was quite a ride we went on in 3 seconds.
That's what she said.
Oh, I'm so sorry I set you over that. Jen, what that's called is an alley-oop.
Isaac proceeds to take the umbrella and he throws it really hard. He's got super strength and
Well,
power at this
it's
point.
broken in half, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So which half did he throw?
The handle half.
Okay.
There was a man walking up a hill.
Oh, shit.
Uh-oh.
It's a curved handle.
Okay. Like
Oh,
a
no.
boomerang?
No,
I
it's
don't
not.
like how much you're laughing before you say this.
I like it.
So the throat is really soft in the middle. You if you're gonna impale someone, you can do it through the throat.
Guys, if you were looking for impalement tips,
Yeah.
Mikey's got you covered in this week's Patreonicals.
The umbrella handle goes through his throat. That man, he was hiking on this pretty steep thing, so he's still alive, but he's like falls.
Right.
He rolls towards the cliff, grabs towards the rock. His fingernails come off. All that stuff.
Oh,
Ooh.
that got real graphic real quick.
No.
And he falls down off the cliff. He's hitting the side and bouncing off a little bit.
Ooh.
This is insult meet injury.
He falls in the ground, and he actually lands in pretty softened water.
Oh, okay.
But then a grizzly bear.
A swimming grizzly bear?
They can swim.
They can, I
That's how
know.
they eat fish.
He
Oh,
was
there you go.
right next to the stream catching salmon.
But this time he caught a derrick.
Yeah, and
you
then
know who could have helped him with that? Eddie.
that's true. But Eddie, it was too far away. So he gets eaten alive by the grizzly bear. He's pretty dead.
Ugh.
I'm sorry, dear.
That guy dies a lot.
All right, so back to the main fight.
Okay.
Isaac is beating Matt's head in
With the umbrella or just in general?
in general. He
Okay.
thinks he leaves him for dead and he's gone.
Okay.
Sad that he's accidentally destroyed the world because there's also like the cannibal zombie outbreak going on around the world. But also happy he gets his revenge. So he's gone away, but he's
Right.
still got super strength and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Eddie finds Matthew's body and puts it on the back of a rhinoceros.
Yes.
Yeah.
And drives him back.
He drives the rhinoceros back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
like from a coal cart behind the rhinoceros.
Oh my God.
Eddie's created a sanctuary.
Has he created it or did he use
He
animal
used
slave
the animal,
labor? Okay,
animal
that's fine.
slave labor. Well, he has an agreement with them.
So it's a lot like Swiss Family Robinson,
It's
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot like that. There's
Yeah.
like wooden walls and all that stuff.
except not as problematic.
Yes, and then
Okay, good.
Eddie is like, "Oh my gosh, he's setting up and saving his animal friends from the apocalypse."
Right.
At the end, Matthew wakes up and he has no memory, and that's the end of this episode.
Oh
Was
my
it all
God.
a dream?
Find out next week on another episode of The Patreonicals.
Patreonicals.
This episode also brought to you by Chris.
Oh.
Hey, Chris.
And this time, more than ever,
Chris wants you all to know that you are loved, heard, and listened to.
Yes, Chris. And we know times are hard right
Yeah.
now. Everybody's losing it a little bit. Hey, check out the Facebook group if you haven't. People are posting videos.
It is, yeah.
We're all coming together because there's just, everybody's got free time and
Well, yeah, and a lot of people have been through a very, very hard time because of
Yes.
this. People have been laid off or furloughed or whatever, and it's a lot of support going on. So check it out.
It really
And
is.
Thank
It's
you,
really
Chris, so
nice.
much for having this weekly reminder.
yeah, and we make a bunch of jokes, but we love you and we see you and we care about you and join the Facebook group and we'll talk and stuff.
Yeah.
theme music. I'm the sheriff, and you're the deputy. So when I say play, you play.
You don't have the authority to get sick team music. We gotta play you.
It's Jen continuing to talk about how sexy Timothy Oliphant is the entire movie. And listen, I'm here for it.
I make no apologies.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Every time you said, it's real hot, I was like, I mean, yeah, he is.
Yeah.
He's not hot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I am very, very straight.
Are you?
Welcome to the Horror Virgin, everyone. I'm Jen.
I'm Mikey.
And I'm the straight horror virgin Todd, which means I don't like scary movies, but you guys make me watch them. And this week, if you wondered if the U.S. would ever nuke a city because of a pandemic-style outbreak, they definitely would.
Todd, that's crazy.
We're looking
this
at you,
week-
New York.
Or Washington.
Or San Francisco.
This week, we watched
The Crazies.
All right, have you guys seen this movie before?
Yes, I saw it in theaters back in
2010 is when it came
yeah.
out. Yeah, awesome. Did you like it then?
I did. I really liked it.
Awesome. Jen, same question.
I rented it after it came out, and
You with the
I
rentals,
know,
man.
man.
Your whole pickup style was Blockbuster and then busting her.
Yep, have made out.
Hang on, Blockbusting her?
Blockbusted her.
That was my move, man. It was nice. I've
Blockbuster, wine, and good time.
I've made out with a lot of people in that Blockbuster.
Now
In
just-
the Blockbuster? Jen,
I mean, the
have you no
the
dignity?
shells are high.
They were pretty high,
I know,
yeah.
you know?
You can get
I
felt
don't
up.
remember. I was young. Everything was high.
Yeah, because I was 4
'Cause
feet
you're
tall.
tall.
Yeah.
You must be this tall to ride a Blockbuster ride.
Or a Jen. So, Jen, you rented it, right? Did you actually make it to the end before you guys commenced with the sexy time?
Getting down, the craziness, if you will.
Ooh, yeah.
You know what? I don't remember hardly anything about this movie.
So
maybe
it started
not.
very quick. So what you're saying is you are with someone who was hotter than Timothy Oliphant.
I mean, that doesn't exist.
That's true.
But except for Corey. But like
the Podfather, yeah.
yeah, exactly. Jen's libido aside. I remember liking this movie a lot, but as we watched it, I didn't remember hardly anything that happened in it. Except for like the pitchfork thing.
Sure,
because
I
it's on
remember
the
you saying
poster.
that. Did you like it today when we watched it,
I
though?
loved it today.
Okay, so
yeah.
even though you didn't remember it, you still liked it as
Right,
much.
right,
Yeah,
exactly.
okay, cool. I had never seen it before, clearly, and maybe it's just because I'm still stuck on a Stranger's hangover and how bad that movie was, but this was awesome. I thought it was great.
9,000 things more happened in this movie.
Yes.
Than in this
Like
movie.
shit actually happened. Everything made sense. They did stuff that I would be like, oh, that's what I would do. And then it still went wrong and everything made sense. So it like was scary. I didn't love the jump scares in it. But it was, I'll say, I think it was a great movie.
I really enjoy this film. I liked it in theaters. I really liked it today. The tension is great. The pacing is amazing.
Yeah.
It's like a suspense film throughout.
And it just goes. It starts and goes.
Even its jump scares are not super cheap. Like
No, I
the
don't
way
think they
they interact, like they introduce people behind them, it's just like super
Yeah.
creepy how the
Right,
virus
which
is.
I think they did in Strangers too. But I
like-
think they do it better
Yeah.
here.
Well, and one thing I like about this is it reminded me, like in feel, a lot of Overlord. You know, like because it's
Oh,
billed
shit, yeah.
as sci-fi horror,
It
but I
is.
think it's much more. It feels much more like action horror, which
Yeah.
I love. When you can pull off good action horror, it's awesome.
I so badly want to make a Call of Duty reference. I want to be like, this movie gets to that 25 kill streak and then drops a nuke on the city. So like, it definitely does amp up the action. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's entertaining. I think it has mass appeal.
Which is why it surprises me that this movie is like I had forgotten about it until just we had a global
That's
pandemic.
because you didn't really watch
Well,
it
that's
so
true.
much as you made out to someone to it.
I
right?
watched certain characters in it
Right.
very closely.
Oh, so what you're saying is you weren't with someone who was attractive as you wanted them, so you rented a Timothy Oliphant movie so you could focus on someone else.
Everybody looks like Timothy Oliphant in the dark. So. Hey, guys, listeners, just be aware this is a Thirsty Jen episode. I will try to contain myself.
I'm pretty sure that was not up for debate at this point in the
Yeah.
podcast. All right, well, let's get into the fucking movie.
All right. So we start with a building on fire and a crazy, fiery hellscape
It's
of a
not
town.
just a building. It's like the whole
Yeah.
main strip of
It's
this
Main
town.
Street,
Yeah.
yeah.
This scene reminds me of when the whole town goes crazy in Gremlins.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. Although you don't really see anyone on Main Street. It's just like on fire and shit's
Right.
going crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, the whole street is burned out.
Yeah,
And-
absolutely.
And then we hear Johnny Cash singing. And the Johnny Cash song in the beginning, the reason they have those is because those begin and end the original. So that was kind of
Oh,
a
okay.
nod to the original
Okay.
movies. Yeah, yeah.
It sounded like old Johnny Cash, not young Johnny Cash.
was.
Though. It sounded like it was on the acoustic album that he did right before he died, which is great.
I think
he
it
did
was.
Hurt on that,
Mhm.
but he just sounds so old, and some of the songs like are amazing.
But so we're seeing somebody driving through like some Iowa cornfields, and we see a real close up on a wedding ring. So I guess they're telling me to back off a little bit because Timothy Oliphant is married in this movie.
Yeah, and he's in a sheriff car, right?
Mhm.
And he's driving.
There's like a montage of like different parts of the town.
Yeah, they're
This is
really
the
just setting the
school,
scene,
This is
yeah.
the main
Mhm.
street. And it's like this is a really small farming town.
Yes.
And it's very wholesome.
Yes.
Mhm. And so then we go to a
Let's
doctor's
fuck it up.
office. Yeah,
They do though.
I mean, basically,
Absolutely, yeah.
So there's a nurse talking to a female nurse talking to a female doctor, and
Right.
we're gonna find out the nurse's name is Becca, and she's like 17, and that the doctor's name is Judy, and she is the luckiest woman in the world and married to Timothy Oliphant in this
Right.
movie.
Yeah, I mean, they're like a power couple in this town because
really
he's the
are.
sheriff of the town, top lawman, and she's like, I assume, one of the, if not the only doctor in town.
Right. She's talking to Becca, and we find out Becca wants time off, and she's secretly dating someone. And so
Yes.
then we cut to Timothy Oliphant, and we find out he is the one driving with the close-up ring, and he's at a baseball game. And I love how this opens.
I love it too because he's at the concession stand getting coffee and the guy's like about to charge him. So the principal comes up and says the sheriff doesn't pay for coffee and then
He's
They
like,
just-
the principal pays for parking tickets.
yeah, it just shows they have a good relationship.
It does, yeah. I did forget about that.
Yeah.
And so because he didn't have to pay for this coffee, he just drops it on the ground.
Yeah, when
He's
he
like,
sees the
"Fuck
guy
you,
walking onto the
principal."
field, yeah.
And he doesn't. He actually dramatically drops it, and
Yeah.
I was a little worried that it was going to be super cheesy when I saw that, but it's not. But he's also talking to his deputy,
No, because
Russ.
the guy
Yes.
has a shotgun. And he's also dressed and looks kind of like the bad guy from Men in Black 1.
Oh yeah, Edgar.
He's got an
He's
Edgar
wearing an
suit.
Edgar
Okay,
suit
so
on. Yeah,
let's talk about who that is, though, because
Edgar?
so we're watching the baseball game,
right.
and he notices somebody walking into the outfield who kind of looks like
Edgar.
I don't like Men in Black because Edgar is so gross.
He is gross.
But
Yeah.
this guy is also gross.
He is. Okay, so he's just kind of wandering onto the baseball field from the outfield, and he's got a shotgun in his hand.
Yeah.
And I mean, Timothy Oliphant is like ready to go. And so he walks up to him. His name is Rory. He's
I mean,
like,
that's his job, though.
It
He's,
is.
and he's a good. I'm not saying he shouldn't do that. He's a great sheriff. Yeah,
The deputy kind of stays back, which is kind of weird.
yeah.
Yeah.
The deputy does not do a great job here.
well, and all that to say is we immediately learn Timothy Oliphant is on top of shit in this town.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and so he's walking on, he's trying to talk to him, and he's like looking strangely, and he's got a nosebleed, and Timothy Oliphant thinks he's drunk.
Well, yeah, because we find out later he had a problem with alcoholism, but then he
Yeah.
was in recovery for 2 years.
yeah, and he was really proud
But
of it, too.
Before that,
Yeah.
he used to be the town drunk.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Yeah.
Timothy Oliphant does a good job of trying to like de-escalate him verbally.
He
Yeah,
does,
absolutely.
yeah.
What bothers me about this is when the guy pulls the shotgun up to like shoot Timothy
yeah.
Oliphant, and he continues to like try and de-escalate it. His deputy doesn't just drop him immediately.
Right, right. Well, because at first he's got the gun at his waist.
Yeah, you
know?
might say he's like hip firing.
Right,
it.
right. And then when he pulls it up like at shoulder
Well,
height,
that's when Timothy shoots him.
drops
He's just
him
like,
right
I'm not
away.
dealing with this. Yeah.
Right, yeah. And so this guy Rory is dead.
But then
And-
immediately runs to his aid, which is what they train police
does.
officers to
Yeah, he
do.
does.
Yeah.
I mean, you could tell, and I think Timothy Oliphant's not the best actor in the world, but he's definitely serviceable, right? Am I right, Jen?
Oh, he's serviceable.
Yeah, he's definitely serviceable.
I could teach him how.
But
to
I mean,
use
I
a
just think he
service
does a
weapon.
good job of conveying that he did not want to shoot this
Oh
guy.
yeah. And then
Yeah.
he cares about him too
Yeah,
because he knew him
absolutely.
by name. And
Yeah.
I imagine this would we see him later on like having a really hard time with this, which I imagine. But what else was he gonna do?
I bet Timothy Oliphant in this movie, I mean, I know he's a character in the movie, but it's a small town. I bet he knows pretty much every adult in the town by name.
Right.
It's 1,200 people. Like,
Well,
yes,
and that's
real
part
small.
of his job.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. Yeah.
But so he shoots him, and then as we see that happening, we see it zooming out on like
Like a satellite image. Yeah.
Yeah, and it reminded
Yeah.
me, what was that Enemy of the State movie with Will
Yes,
Smith?
Enemy of the State. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, it reminded me of that, and it says something about
Gene Hackman's
population.
so good. in that.
Population
Sorry.
1,200, initiate quarantine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whew, guys, and I'm not going to lie, like with all the shit that's going down, there were some parts of this movie that scared me more than they would have normally.
Oh,
you
because
know?
of what's currently going on?
Uh-huh. Yeah. And I mean,
What's
we're not
going on?
nearly to this level.
That's
I
fair.
think current events make these movies a lot more believable.
Well, this one specifically, yeah.
Right. Anyway, so they're at the morgue, and Timothy is talking to the wife of the guy he shot, Rory, and the
Oh,
son.
my God,
And
yeah.
It's really sad.
He talks to the coroner first, and then he walks out. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
the funeral home manager, guys.
He's a religious figure.
Okay, so it's the priest. When Timothy Oliphant
Yeah.
walks out from the mortician guy, the priest is like, "Don't do this now,"
Right.
which I think is not necessarily bad advice. But I mean, he apologizes. Like,
Right.
I don't know. I thought that was a
Yeah, he tries to tell the family there's nothing I could do. He has
Yeah,
a
like-
shotgun.
Right. I mean, I had to.
But in truth, and we just saw it, and his family didn't. So we know that there was
Right.
literally nothing he could do.
Right.
But I mean, it's still super sad.
Well, and he assumed that he was drunk too. And so the wife
Yeah.
was like, no, he hasn't been drinking. He was really proud of his sobriety, and then slaps him. And I can understand both of them. Like,
The slap's a little weird because he really looked like he enjoyed it.
If you pause
I
the movie
mean-
right when Timothy Oliphant gets slapped, his eye has a look of both recognition and enjoyment.
He's
It does.
Dr. Judy, we have a to-do list.
I've learned a little bit about myself today.
Yeah, I hope this doesn't awaken something deep and dark inside me. And it did, Timothy. It did.
All right, so she slaps him, and it's really sad. I feel really bad for
yeah,
everybody.
everyone
in the
involved.
Scene,
It's so
'cause It's just
sad,
one
yeah.
of these things,
Yeah.
All right, so now we see Judy waking up in the farmhouse that she luckily shares with Timothy Oliphant, but he's not in bed. So she goes outside to try to talk to him, and he's like doing his feelings, shaving of the wood.
Yeah, it's just like The Witch when
Yeah.
the dad's chopping his wood, but this time
Yeah.
it's just shaving wood.
right.
Guys in general,
Like to play with wood when they're down.
no,
I,
mean,
get
like,
it, Mikey. You
Yeah.
can say it.
in my internship, they just like to...
Oh.
How'd you get that internship, Mikey?
No.
Was it unpaid?
Yeah, it was unpaid.
So it's just overset.
No, I did therapy on adolescence. what I found out was if he would go on walks, they would talk more. Guys talk a lot when they're more active.
Yeah.
And when they're not looking at each other.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair.
So don't look at me.
I read some Cosmo article that said if you have to have a serious talk with your boyfriend, do it while you're driving somewhere,
Yes.
because they can't escape and they don't have to look at you.
If I learned anything from Vanilla Sky, that's a bad idea. Is that what you're saying, Jen?
No, I would never.
I literally had a girlfriend once tell me if a girl ever says, I would never, it means she would.
And she did.
And
last
has.
night.
And then she started saying that to me. She like legit told me her own tell.
Really?
And then
Oh,
like 6
God.
months later used it on me. And I was like,
Stop.
oh, okay, shit.
I would never.
Yeah, it was like literally 6 months to the day later. It was hilarious. I mean, in a very sad way.
No, I feel like tragedy and comedy are very close.
They are so close.
are.
If I learned anything from A Quiet Place.
All right. So we also find out that she is pregnant right now. Although it's very early on because she's only just a little bit showing. Okay, so now he goes to work and they get a call and we find out that Rory was not drunk after all. So what the fuck? What happened to this person?
Well,
So-
he went crazy, Jen. Did you not watch the
Oh,
movie?
is that why they
They
call
explain
the
it.
Crazy?
The listeners don't know that yet.
Oh,
That's
my bad.
true.
Yeah.
They really
Spoiler
should.
alert.
Guys, you should watch the movies before you listen to this or have no intent to watch them.
Exactly. So he goes to do some investigating. And so he goes to finally pick up his coffee mug that he just dramatically dropped on the floor. And he sees Principal Ben sitting on the bleachers and just staring like he's watching a game that's really boring. But
I
there's
thought
no
he was
game.
like just super deep in thought, which I could understand having
Yeah.
witnessed that. He's at school, and he has the kids to like worry
it's like
about,
it's
and, like look
Dawson's
after.
Creek, and he wants somebody to come up and ask him what's wrong. You know how they all stare at the
fucking
creek?
love a Dawson's Creek reference. Also, we need to talk about Riverdale more.
I have never seen Dawson's Creek or Riverdale.
That's because you're an idiot.
No, it's because I watch like HBO shows like Secession and shit like that.
Oh.
I'm better than everyone. My name's Todd. I'm the
What
polite
is
version.
happening right now? Oh my god!
Sorry, we just went a little crazy.
Oh my
Wow.
god!
I think we're spot on.
I just got shamed for liking elevated entertainment.
How many times have you? No, I was poor. I watched Nickelodeon growing up.
There's nothing wrong with Nickelodeon.
I just didn't have it.
I'm sorry that you guys didn't have it in your wood paneled houses.
Yeah, I was poor growing up.
Okay.
I didn't have a driver, Michael. We'll get to it. But yeah,
I did not have a driver.
sure.
Oh my gosh.
We'll get to it, Michael.
Okay, Michael. Are we Michaeling you now?
Yeah.
I'm getting Michael shit. I'm like, Dad's mad at me.
Michael, middle name Randolph.
Yeah.
So he goes back to do field investigating, and he sees Principal Ben sad looking at the field, and he's acting weird.
Well, first he picks up his coffee cup he dropped.
Finally, yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to write myself a ticket because I'm a man of integrity.
Yeah, and he
Right.
is.
Does he
Although he
actually
doesn't.
do that?
No, he just throws away the coffee.
Well, he
cup.
was going to, but the principal was there.
Well, he wrote the ticket to himself, and then he looked in a mirror and he said, "Suck it."
He took us right and he's like, Officer, what are you going to make me do to get out of this ticket?
And then he took his left hand and he showed him.
I can't believe what I'm hearing now. So let me just run the listeners through what you guys are talking about. So you guys are saying that he wrote himself a ticket and then he got in front of a mirror and said to himself, "What are you going to make me do to get out of this?" And then he jerked himself off while molesting his balls.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up.
I think we watched drastically different movies.
Oh, I watched a different movie in my head.
Yeah.
If you're Timothy Oliphant, wouldn't you want to look in the mirror all the time? I mean, why would you ever look at anything else?
Well.
I mean, unless you're gonna. Anyways,
And at this point, he's looking at Bill, and Bill is just staring in a catatonic state.
that's true. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Principals are lame.
In general?
Yeah.
I mean, that's fair.
So now we're back to Judy, and she's seeing patients, and there's a lady who looks exactly like Amy Adams, but is not Amy
No,
Adams.
it's Blamey Adams.
Shamey Adams? Flamey Adams?
Flamey Adams
Flamey
is pretty
Adams.
accurate to what happens, but we'll get there.
I would-
Oh, too soon, Tom.
You said it.
I know.
How did you say it, then blame me for it?
Blamey Adams?
Anyway, she's really smoking hot.
Ooh. She is cute. I'll give you that, Mikey. Yeah.
All right, so she's got a husband that's weird.
Don't they always?
Yeah. Listen, the husband's fine at this point.
Yes, but he's acting a little
No, he's
strange.
not. She brings her husband in because he's acting bizarre. It seems more mental health than physical health.
Yeah.
And then Dr. Judy does an examination and was like, he seems fine, but also not fine at all.
Yeah, so watch
Right.
him. Okay, so the next thing that happens is not Amy Adams, is at her farm at night, and Nicholas is her son, and they're hearing some weird farm stuff going on in the farm barn. Amy Adams, not Amy Adams.
Flamey Adams, as you call
There's
her.
a tractor turned on with the thing
Yeah,
spinning.
it's like, what do they call those things?
Like a
Combines or thresher? Okay.
Yeah. So she goes out to the farm barn to investigate, and there's a gigantic wheat thresher or some farm
Something
thing.
like that.
Look,
yeah.
we're not experts. No, we're city people.
We may live in Tennessee, but we live in a city, so
Yes.
we don't know. But anyways, it's gigantic, and it's got lots of threshing blades, and so she walks right up to the blades and starts screaming through the blades at her husband to turn it
So
off.
dumb. Why would
Yeah.
you stand in front of the blade?
Probably because they've been married 20 years without any of this happening before, and she's
She's just ready to go out?
I mean,
they probably have a good relationship.
Well, and
okay.
she does pretty quickly walk around to the cabin
Yes.
to see, and
Yeah.
she sees that there's nobody in there.
It was a thresher misdirection.
It was, yeah,
Yes.
classic
Yeah.
thresher misdirection.
You guys have been there before.
They happen on farms all the time.
Oh,
okay?
yeah.
And so she's looking around the barn, and it's a little bit menacing.
But she hears her son yell.
She
Yeah.
does.
and
She
then
hears
shows,
Nicholas.
so she beelines it back from the barn.
More of a
Mm-hmm.
blood-curdling scream. He sounds like he's being murdered inside the house.
Yeah, so
Yes.
she
So
beelines
she
it back
runs.
from the barn. Yeah.
Mhm. And she's trying to find her son, but she can't find anybody in the house. And she goes upstairs, and then he jumps out and grabs her
Yes.
from behind and pulls her into a closet where they're hiding. And he says, "Dad has a knife."
The son does that.
The
yeah.
son does it. Yeah.
This scared the shit out of me. When
It's
she's
me
looking out
too.
the keyhole and then his eyeball pops up right there, that scared me.
He's right there, and he sees them in the keyhole, and we think he's going to try to bust in, but he
Yeah.
doesn't. He just locks the door.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
he walks away, which
Which is even more scary,
It
right?
is,
And they're
man.
freaking out.
Yes.
And this is the darkest. This is one of the darkest things we've seen in a little
Well, don't
while.
worry, because he's about to make it real light.
That's true. Oh,
Yeah,
and
it's
so
rough,
We
man.
see that he is pouring gasoline down the stairs.
How are you not throwing your shoulder into that? I mean, she
Dude.
might have been. I
She
don't know,
probably
man.
did, but it's
Yeah.
an old house, which is why
Yeah.
there's a lock in the closet.
I mean, it looks pretty well made too.
Yeah.
Like, I'm definitely not blaming her for getting burned alive
Right.
here. Yeah.
But-
But this movie changes tone immediately.
Yes, it
really
does. Yeah,
does.
because
Yeah.
he walks outside and then lights a match, I think, and
Well,
throws
yeah.
it down.
Pours
and just-
gasoline all down the stairs.
Yeah.
They're watching. They're both terrified. It's a really creepy scene.
And I will give it to the movie that we don't see their reaction. Once he lights the match, we don't see them.
Yeah, we
again.
just hear them.
Which
but
is
yeah.
good because we don't need to, and I didn't want to.
Cuts back to a phone call at the sheriff's house.
Yeah.
And so they are going to the house, both of them, because she's the doctor and would need to help any victims.
Yeah.
And he's the sheriff. And they see him, and he's just sitting outside whistling.
It looks like it might just be a house fire.
right. Except that we don't see the wife and the son. So
Right.
we're assuming they're inside. Yeah.
Well, and then he's outside, and they're like, he killed him.
Yeah, but he's catatonic again.
Yeah.
So
Right,
they
right,
take
right.
him and throw him in jail. It's an open and shut case for sure.
I mean, it
it is
is.
a wrap it up, boys
And they got the
situation.
guy.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, anyways, we cut back to hunters in a swamp. They see a parachute stuck in some trees and then a dead guy in a water. And
Yeah, because it's connected to the guy who's in the water.
and
Yeah.
it's really gross. And so we see back to the sheriff's station.
Yeah, well, they're not crazy
Do you know what I
yet.
like about this movie?
Right.
What?
It explains everything
It does.
It does, yeah.
in like a cool way.
Yeah, because they were in the water. They didn't have waders on. So they were in the water where the plane was.
Yeah.
And the mortician guy who went out there as well to get identification
Yeah,
off
he
the
got
guy.
really close to the guy.
He did. He had waders. So did Timothy Oliphant, the deputy.
Yeah.
So this is not where they get exposed, or they don't get
Right.
exposed to it because they're wearing protection, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that made sense to me. I love that this movie explains sort of everything. So we're actually not there
We're
yet
not there
where
yet,
they're at because it cuts back to them receiving the phone call about
Right.
it.
And we
Right.
see Bill
Yeah.
just standing in the cell, staring at Timothy Oliphant's like that's exactly the look that Rory was giving
Same
me.
fucking look is what he
Right,
says.
I
Yeah.
know.
Holding that cup of coffee.
Yeah.
This man can't get enough caffeine.
I mean, he's got a lot of work to do.
On that
so,
booty.
so now they are investigating the body that they found in the
Yes.
swamp.
So now
Okay.
they go out and meet the hunters.
Yeah.
And the hunters sort of explain what they were doing there, just taking the morning air or whatever.
They're like, you're wearing an orange vest and you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and he even says,
Put the guns away until the fall, boys.
yeah, he like
Right.
handles it in a very sort of letting him off the hook sort of way.
Right. Because, I mean, they could have just not reported this body.
And
you know?
honestly, at this point, I don't think they're really dicks. They're just guys hunting before
Right.
hunting season.
Well, I think the beginning of the movie explains like no one in this town is like dicks.
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
They're all just like regular people, and some of them are
Yeah.
a little meaner than others, and some of them are
And,
just
well,
like
and then you can
normal,
tell
you
like
know?
he knows them and he's like, come on, guys. Come on.
Put the guns away till
Come on.
fall. Yeah,
right,
like, I
exactly.
like
or
that.
like, I didn't see that. Just don't
Right,
do
yeah.
it again.
Right.
Yeah. So as they are swamp boating away, the guy is like giving Timothy Oliphant some shit, like, "Oh, maybe you should just shoot me instead." And so Timothy Oliphant is clearly upset still that he had to kill this man.
Yeah,
yesterday.
because he's like giving a shit about killing the guy in the baseball field.
Exactly,
Right. Like that's
yeah,
not. It's like a day ago that he did
Exactly. Exactly,
Yeah, that
right.
guy's kind
And
of a
like,
dick.
you don't want to. Like, how many of people in the stands would he have killed? So they stop the motor and they realize that they are in a swamp, but they're on top of a plane that has crashed, and we see the outline.
I really liked the zoom out because it was a very big plane.
And so, of course, they asked the question we asked ourselves: how did nobody hear that this thing happened?
Not only that, he already puts it together. He's like,
because immediately they go to the water place in town.
Place.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, why wouldn't we hear about a plane this big coming down? This is bad news.
Yeah. This is our our water supply. Yeah. And then he like gets a map of the town out to see like who would have gotten this water first. Like where's the like, origin of the pipe, and it's Rory's house.
Yeah, this to me was like the last 10, 15 minutes of Arachnophobia where they get the map out and they're like doing a thing. But it happens super early in this movie, which I really like. Like,
I did too.
They know what's happening immediately, and they're literally for, I don't know, an hour and 20 minutes of the movie, they're working against it and just being thwarted at every attempt, which I liked a lot.
This is why I love this movie so much, because the pacing is so good. They get some of the stuff that usually takes half or more of the movie out of the way in the first 15 minutes.
Right.
And they do it in such a way that it doesn't downplay anything.
Yeah.
Right. Well, because the next thing that happens is they go to the mayor.
Yeah.
And he's in his pool, which I thought him having a pool and like water was going to have something to do with it.
I thought he was going to be like big shit crazy of Crazy Town.
No, I just thought
but we never see him again.
Right.
He's like the mayor of Jaws.
Exactly. He's
he
like the
is
mayor of Jaws.
Yeah.
Where he's like, we can't shut off the water. We're Farmer Town. We'll lose all the money.
Right.
I mean, he does say that, and that is actually a very good explanation for why you can't shut off the water, because he would be bankrupting the town.
Especially if you have no evidence yet.
Right.
You
and
know?
Timothy Oliphant gives zero fucks about what the mayor says.
I love this
which
guy.
I love too.
Yeah.
Timothy's like, well, you're wrong. I'm the sheriff.
Right.
Fuck you. I'm going to go turn off the water and steal the turny thing to make a turn.
Exactly, because I don't want the whole town to die. He also like locks up the only water turning on utensil in the whole town.
Right.
So they're back at
I love that.
I do too, man.
The water main.
The main water
main
main.
water main.
The main water main.
You might say he's the main water man because he is a water main of action. Okay, so so now they're back at the sheriff's station, and we notice there's a bloody handprint on the cell wall.
Right.
Bill is dead in the cell, and his body's all gross and like has got like veiny black stuff on it.
Yeah, it's clear he's been infected.
Right. But then he jump scares up because he's not actually
he looks
dead.
like a
Actually scared
zombie.
me. Yeah.
Guys, it's crazy.
Oh, I got it.
Yeah.
You said the name of the
See?
movie. Yeah.
Aww.
I love it.
So they go to try to call probably like medical help. So the phones and the networks now are down.
Which would be enough for me to burn down the whole town.
Yep, that's what you said. Like
if I
no
had
internet.
no internet, it's over.
Right.
You kidding me?
Which makes me nervous because we podcast at my house and
Yes.
you often can't get on the internet.
Guest networks at a home place.
Well, I mean, you have the real password, don't you?
You gave it to me once. I forgot.
Wow. I've never even gotten the guest password.
Yeah, you know why, Mikey?
Yeah, we know what you do with your internet, Mikey.
We're very scared of what would happen. The bathroom breaks would take much longer.
You guys are so mean.
So now he goes out and the street is weirdly quiet, except for some lady who bikes through town.
So weird.
Singing, yeah.
Oh, what's your fun fact about
My
this
fun
lady?
fact is that she was the star of the original movie.
Oh.
The actress's name is Lynn Lowry, and
Okay.
she was the star of the original movie. So that's a fun little cameo. But he also sees an SUV speed away, and then he hears
No,
brake.
a black government-esque
A Men in
SUV.
Black.
I wonder if it's the same SUV they run into later.
It might be that
Yeah.
redheaded guy. So we hear breaking glass, and he goes into the morgue/mortuary, and we pass the burned bodies, and it's really sad. And then he sees like a body with a sheet covered over it, and he pulls it off, and the eyes are like they have little sewn.
I think it's the
X's
guy he
on them.
shot in the very
Yeah,
beginning.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And then he sees another guy behind him moving under a sheet.
Yeah.
And it's the priest. It's the priest guy from the beginning.
And his eyes and his mouth are sewn
Oh,
together.
it looks terrible.
Oh, it's terrible. Yeah. And this is one of the scariest parts of the movie, I think. And so he like cuts the guy's mouth. Oh, and it's so gross, and I almost couldn't
it's so
look.
good.
Yeah, he takes
And
45
he's really
seconds to cut every twig.
He's trying not to hurt the guy.
Yeah,
and he's
yeah.
like really gentle, and he doesn't know what's going on. And the guy's like,
Look behind you.
And then we see the Undertaker, and the Undertaker like hits him with something and knocks him down.
It's like a medical stand of
Yeah,
something.
IV
Yeah.
pole or
Or like-
whatever.
Yeah, that's probably that.
But he's also got like an electronic bone saw, and it's like a
Yes.
circular bone saw, and he keeps trying to attack him with it. And oh my God, it's so terrifying because it's like he looks a little bit crazy, but not like he just looks like an evil homicidal maniac.
Which is just a little bit crazy in Jen's book, I guess.
Yeah, like, that's insane.
What I'm saying is he doesn't have all like the skin configuration.
Oh, he doesn't look like
we'll
a zombie.
see
He looks like just a regular
exactly.
murderer.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Not that it's okay to murder people with bone saws. And it's a really tense scene. And so Timothy Oliphant finally knocks him down. And
I mean, Timothy gets sliced in the chest.
he does.
And he eventually gets the cord wrapped around the mortician guy and pulls the cord, and then he sort of makes him slash himself.
Yeah, it
which I
keeps
thought was
pulling
great.
it and driving it into him, and then it
yeah.
finally gets him, I think, in the neck, and he falls on top of the priest guy, and then he's dead on the floor, but the bone saw is still on, and it keeps bonking on the ground,
And it literally starts chasing Timothy across the floor.
It does,
heading right for those.
He backs up into a door and
sweet,
spreads his
sweet
legs,
nuts.
and it's coming right at it.
Yeah.
It stops, and we look up and we see the deputy has pulled the plug on.
Right.
it.
Well, it stops, but it actually still is because the
It's
deputy
cool.
just stepped on it.
Yeah.
Timothy Oliphant's wife owes the deputy a lot of thanks.
Well, fun fact: in the sequel, they actually name the baby deputy.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
they're gonna name it that, whether it's a boy
Nice.
or a girl.
If you haven't read the book of this movie,
Right.
it's in there, Mikey.
So now Timothy Oliphant and the wife, Judy, are at home, and he's telling her to go stay with her parents and kind of being a little condescending. Is if they need penicillin, I'll tell you. Because she's these are my patients. They're going to need medical assistance, too.
Right.
And I like that they don't prolong this conversation either, because we establish enough that he's concerned, but we don't have to see them keep arguing, because she immediately says there's somebody out there. And so he
Right.
goes to investigate, and it's the army. And so the army has pulled them both onto a school bus, and the deputy is there.
I love that we're 20 minutes into this movie and the army's already there,
Yeah.
Exactly.
pulling everyone together.
We're
yeah.
already at this point. And I think you even said at this point, that is not what I saw.
No, I didn't see that coming
next.
until the very end of the movie, and it happens 20 minutes in. I was like, where the fuck is this going to go?
Exactly.
Because usually, Train to Busan, them seeing the army is the end
Exactly.
of the movie.
Right.
Exactly.
Which is what's great when you escalate your movie, because then you don't know what the next predictable step is going to be.
Right.
Another movie could have made them just fight those hunters the entire time.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm glad that we got more,
So unpredictably escalate your movies. Don't unpredictably escalate your relationships.
Okay, so they're on school buses and they're taking them to the high school, and we see a bunch of people in cages.
Yeah.
And we see a bunch of tents and people in hazmat suits, and and everybody's wearing hazmat suits and gas masks. And we see people taking babies away.
Because unlike now, in 2010, we had a government that could respond to these sorts of pandemic type situations.
Right.
Oh,
Now,
yes.
because
I'm here for this.
if you stop at this point, that's one of
Yeah.
the things they're doing in China that is effective. And I saw
Yeah.
some guy
They
on
have
the
the same
news talking
thermometers
about
that are
it.
using in this movie.
Right. And it's in this
Yeah.
movie, they take you away and you get terribly murdered. But
Well,
in
not yet.
You honestly
We'll
don't
get there,
know that.
Jen.
Yeah.
Right. If we stopped the movie right now, we could say, oh, this is an effective response. Because what I've heard is if you have a fever, you don't need to go home and spread it to your family.
Right.
You need to go to a fever clinic and
And stay there for
quarantined.
2 weeks while they help you
Exactly.
recover. Yeah.
And that's how some countries, not the U.S., are actually effectively containing
Yeah.
this,
So they're testing every resident to see if they have a
Yeah.
fever, and then
Right.
the people who are well, they're putting on other trucks to leave, and everybody else goes until these the scene where E.T. gets really sick. a lot of
The hospitals. Yeah, they're makeshift hospitals. They're
Yeah.
literally what China set up
lot
for the
of plastic
coronavirus.
tubing
Yeah.
and people in hazmat
Yeah.
suits.
But
think
they're
they're doing-
makeshift coronavirus tents,
Yeah.
those kind of things.
And so we're seeing people get separated. And so as Timothy Oliphant and Judy are talking about this, and because she's a doctor, she can drop
She's
in a
sort of
little
explaining
exposition.
stuff to Timothy, who doesn't know what the
Right.
fuck is going on because he's a great
Yeah.
sheriff, but there's not really much
Yeah,
medical
she said it
training
must
with
be
that.
a virus.
Yeah,
Right. That's why they're
absolutely.
taking temperatures. And she has a fever.
Well, because she's had a fever all month because she's
Exactly.
pregnant, Jen.
Right. Well, and that's probably when you guys learned that that's true. Yeah.
That is when I learned it was
Sometimes when
true,
you're
yeah.
pregnant, your temperature is elevated just a little bit, and it doesn't necessarily
that.
mean you're sick.
I didn't.
So Judy has a fever, and so they are dragging
They get
her
separated,
away.
yeah.
And Timothy Oliphant gets knocked out in the struggle, and she gets dragged.
This scene's really powerful, them
It
being
is.
separate, because it takes
It is.
five five soldiers'
Yeah.
shoulders to knock Timothy Oliphant out. And they knock him unconscious with a gun or something.
They do. The very first X-Men him.
Right.
And the very, very first X-Men when we first meet Magneto as a child.
And so we see her on a gurney being pulled through the high school, and there's all kind of crazy shit happening
Yeah,
in the
it's
room.
like a makeshift
Mhm.
clinic.
And then into a plastic tunnel, and they give her some kind of gas. And she says, please stop. No, I'm pregnant.
I'm pregnant,
And they
yeah.
don't listen. Yeah. But so then now Timothy Oliphant is waking up, and it's he's on a cattle bus or something. And so he's walking out, and they're giving everybody wristbands, and they're
Yeah.
kind of just corralling
and they're
them.
explaining things to people, things
Right.
like
They're
that.
trying to explain it, yeah.
Mhm.
Right. And so then we see water treatment asshole guy.
Well, because Timothy Oliphant's like, hey, I'm going to stay and get my wife out of there. And he's
Right.
like, don't do that. Just get on the bus. They'll explain everything. Everything will be fine. And that's
Right.
when Timothy's
No,
like,
he's like, I'm gonna escape. And he's like, this might be our only chance to leave.
Right.
That's a fool's errand.
Yeah.
You calling my wife a fool's errand?
Timothy throws some shade right here.
He
he
does.
does. It's great.
It's
But that's when he
hot.
says the whole, if you don't ask me why I think staying for my wife is worth it, I won't ask you why you think it's not, or something
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
for your
If
wife.
you
Leaving
don't
your
ask
wife.
me why
Yeah.
I can't leave without my wife, I won't ask you why you can.
Yeah.
Boom.
Boom. And then he drops the mic and punches the dude because he's awesome.
He doesn't do either of
doesn't
those
do
things.
that, but
he does
did it in
react
my
as if he's
heart.
been punched in the heart.
Well,
Yeah.
then a truck drives by really fast and he vanishes because
He
he's
does.
he
got-
does.
he's got
it was
superpowers.
amazing. Yeah.
Meanwhile, while that has happened, she's on the gurney and she's kind of in a room where there's just a bunch of gurney people around. And some of them we can tell are already sick because they're like twitching.
And they're like laughing and like
Right.
crazy. But there's like
Mhm.
8 people in the room.
Right. And then an alarm goes off, and we see outside where all the people are in the cages. Then a red truck drives through the cages
Right.
and starts shooting everybody, may or may not be fire department. And then everybody.
It's not. It's just a bunch of people with
Right,
guns.
No, it's like 2 fire department people. They have fire department t-shirts on, and then there's
Oh,
like
okay.
their friends in the back. Everybody has rifles. They all hop out, start shooting the army, and the army shoots all them. But
Yeah.
then the rest of the people,
They get out.
they get out, they swarm everything else, and like all
Mhm.
these alarms going on. The army people are shooting people, and they're like, "We gotta get the fuck out of here."
right.
the
right.
people in that red fire truck or
They
whatever.
killed the whole town.
Yeah, they're the reason that the town gets nuked.
Yeah.
100%. What I like about that is their storyline, the people in that red truck or whatever, that is a movie
Right.
that we just didn't get to see, which I'm fine with because we
I
don't
am
need
too.
it. But like, that's a whole separate movie.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't think the government had bad intentions because I don't think they would have gone in to like get people out.
I think they
Right.
would have just nuked it immediately. Yeah, me too.
Right. So there's chaos at the high school and there's helicopters. And so all of the medical personnel are leaving. And I guess they're just saying, fuck all these sick people. They're sick anyways. you
Yeah.
know? Except that Judy is not sick.
No.
So they're still like strapped to these gurneys and it's terrible. While this is happening, we cut back to the sheriff's office and Timothy Oliphant has gotten there and he's gotten his weapons. And another thing I love is that we don't have to see him take 20 minutes to get here. He
No.
leaves
Oh,
the place.
yeah.
He's immediately there. It's moving the story forward.
Well, I mean, because while he is in transit, we don't see him in transit, but while he's in transit, that pitchfork guy comes through and starts killing people who are strapped down to these gurneys, which is where Timothy Oliphant's wife is.
So as he's in the sheriff's office, somebody's got a gun, but it turns out it's the deputies.
This is where
Yeah.
the team gets back together.
And it's sweet.
Yeah.
I,
And the
I
deputy's
really
like,
like
I
them
tried to
together.
drive out of town, but they spiked my truck.
Right.
They tire spiked my truck.
Yeah, which is a little spike shadowing. Okay, so now we're back to Judy and Becca is on a gurney over there. And,
Right.
and they're talking to each other. and
Becca's
they're
like, "How
scared.
bad is it?" She's like, "It's not that bad." She's like,
Yeah.
"Oh no."
And then we hear a scraping sound.
Yeah.
And I said that the bone saw thing was super scary, but this is the thing that I did remember and that has stuck with me. Because just that feeling of powerlessness that's happening.
I
in the
think this
scene.
is
Yeah,
the scariest.
absolutely.
Ugh.
Being strapped down to something and you can't move and have somebody just stabbing people next to you and
Yeah.
working his way towards you,
And
that
knowing
is
it's coming.
fucking
I think the
horrifying.
tension ramps up. I think this is the scariest scene in the movie.
Because what's
Yes,
happening is
agreed.
Principal Ben, who's now totally crazy, is dragging the pitchfork down the hall. So
Bloody
we're hearing
pitchfork.
that. Yeah. And so he's walking up to people who are on these gurneys and he's just stabbing them all the way through. And we see like underneath the gurney with the pitchforks coming down. And so he stabs 2 people and then he walks up to Becca. And so he's about to stab her. And then Judy distracts him by yelling,
Yes.
say, hey, over here, like Jeff Goldbluming her. And so then he said, oh, I see another person. So he walks
Yeah,
up.
and then Judy's like, "Oh, what?
I know. Just kidding.
Why did I do this?"
Yeah. Well, and so
I have made a bad choice.
I've made a huge mistake. Well, and so he lifts the pitchfork up to stab Judy, but not so fast because now Timothy Oliphant saves the day and he gets shot.
Yeah,
And
shoots him right through the heart. Yeah.
Right. And so now they're all together.
Becca joins too. Yeah.
Okay, so now they are all like safe and they've got their little 4-person team and they're walking outside and they're seeing all of the dead bodies. This is an interesting scene because the Timothy and the deputy.
Oh, Timmy.
Yeah, I have written Timmy in my notes quite a bit.
I like how in your notes you have a pet name for him.
Oh, he's There's my little Timmy. Okay.
His little Timmy's actually real big.
So a deputy is starting to get worried that he might get sick. Don't worry, guys, because the virus has orders not to get deputy sick.
Right, because the deputy does what the sheriff says.
Exactly.
And the sheriff says the deputy can't get sick, so it's a foolproof plan.
It is. Although, if anybody could command a virus not to touch someone, it's Timothy Olyphant.
Damn right.
This is one of those moments that I do think is a little silly. One of the few parts of the movie where I'm like, what?
I mean, he's trying to give him a pep talk.
He is. But
Maybe
it's
that's not his forte.
It's just weird. And I think a lot of this is just to kind of set up, you give me orders and I give you order, that they've got this teamwork.
Yeah, it sets up what he says to him right before he kills himself.
Right.
Or I guess has himself suicide by cop. Yeah.
So now they're on Main Street, and it's the same burning Main Street that we saw at the very beginning.
Yes.
And we see some baseball players punching a dumpster, which is weird.
And you think this would be the end of the movie, but we're about halfway.
Exactly.
No,
I think
we're
we're even a third of the way.
We have an hour left because we paused it because you had to go to the bathroom.
All right, all the cars are booted, so they can't escape with any of them.
Assuming the military
their
did
car.
that. Yeah.
Right. And we start to hear some gunshots and some good old boys running after someone, and it's the hunters.
Yeah.
And now they're hunting.
But we also see that the deputy went to their truck and it was like, oh, this one's not booted. So he was trying to find the keys or whatever. And Timothy Olyphant sees the back and it's covered in blood.
Right.
So he calls him back, and that's when we see that hunters come back.
Yeah.
And we find out what that is when they open it later. It's a bunch of dead bodies because they've been hunting people.
They've become
most
hunters
dangerous
for
game.
men.
Yeah.
So now they're starting to walk away, and they're walking under a bridge, and they're having a conversation about whether Judy's sick or not. And he's saying, well, we drank the same water. I'm not sick. You're only have a fever because you're pregnant, and it's just tie. So we're both fine. And so now Becca just books it off into the middle of a field, and we find out she's going to find her boyfriend. Because this is right next to where her boyfriend, Scotty.
Yeah, they're taking a shortcut through farm.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
But the girlfriend runs over there because she's not sure. I mean, Scotty doesn't know
She's like,
what's
"Scott-
going on.
Scott-
Nailed it. Were you going there too?
Don't tell Scotty. I love that movie.
Yeah, it's great.
But anyway, she's like, oh, that's Scotty's farm. And then she just takes off. And I'm like, you
Right.
deserve to die.
Well, and then at this point,
yeah, I like this joke.
yes, Timothy Olyphant says, "Deputy, stop her."
And I just go, boom.
like he shoots her down. That shit would have been hilarious. Very wrong, but I'd have laughed.
Well, and so they get up to the door of a barn, and they see Scotty is there, but he's got a gun on them, and they're like, "No, put the gun down. I'm your girlfriend. It's
I'm not
fine."
sick. I'm not sick, or whatever. And
Exactly.
he does not put the gun down.
He doesn't.
Until he scooches out, and then Timothy Olyphant, who was right against the door, hold a
Right.
pistol against his head.
And so then he does, and then they hug and make up immediately.
Yeah,
'cause
he's
I
like,
guess
"Oh, I'm
it
sorry, I
wasn't
almost
weird.
killed you.
Right. I
Please
probably
forgive
wouldn't
me."
have.
High school relationship.
I know, man. It's just so off and on.
Well, and so they come in and they're talking in the barn, and they're like, "Okay, I got to get my mom, and then we'll join your little Scooby gang, but
Right.
not so fast."
Well,
The army.
the thing that happens that I think is a little assuming is the Becca is like, "Hey, get your mom. We'll have plenty of space in this police cruiser."
Exactly.
And Timothy Olyphant's like, "Bitch."
And we do cut to him.
Yeah, I don't know if we have room
hold
for all
on.
that.
He
Yeah.
was okay with it.
He was fine.
Well, because what's he gonna say?
That's
You
true,
know?
yeah.
I
the
mean,
implication.
he
Right.
already made the offer. He just has to back away into the bushes like that Homer Simpson meme. You know? All right.
But they do hide out in the barn.
They do. And they're watching as the army is there, and the army is taking the mom out of her house, and they
Right.
take her temperature, and we hear the fever alarm go off.
Right. So they're
Yeah.
going to take her away. And this is when her son, who is an idiot, runs towards them unarmed.
Right,
And they
right.
just shoot him.
Yeah.
And then the mom runs towards the son, and they just shoot
And they
her
shoot
dead
the
too.
mom. And then they flamethrower both of them.
Honestly, it escalates so quickly.
It
She goes
does.
from being taken out of the house to having a fever to double homicide napalmed in
Right.
20 seconds.
All because those guys in the red truck.
Yes.
Here's the evidence that the army wasn't trying to do bad. They wouldn't be flamethrowing bodies if they were going to bomb the town.
Yeah,
That's
no,
true. Yeah, I do think they had to bomb the town because they couldn't.
They lost
contain it.
control. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And as much as I don't like that this is happening, I love that the story keeps moving and it's escalating and it's not hitting the same beats over and over.
And I like
Yeah.
that there's no bad guy or it's just an accident.
Right.
No, I mean, there's no
Because what we're about to see, because now
It
the
just
army
sucks.
is trying to find the barn, and they get one of the army guys,
Yeah.
and they pull
Yeah.
him in, and they take his gas mask off, and he's like, "Am I going to die if there's no gas mask?" Because he doesn't know what the fuck is going on either. He even says, "I didn't even know what state I was in."
Until we saw the license plate.
Exactly.
Yeah, they flew us in. Yeah.
Mhm. And I love that they included this because, like we were saying, they're just following orders. you
Yeah,
know?
he feels as much like a victim to me as the people in the town.
He even says, like, I didn't sign up to shoot unarmed citizens.
Right. And then
Right.
throughout the movie, the doctor, the sheriff, they all talk like this is a terrible virus. It can't escape. You know, like everybody's just acknowledging that like, it's just a situation that's fucked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. And I mean,
And like that's kind of more like life. Like there's no like clear villains and stuff. It's just more
We have
like
some pretty clear villains.
well, yeah, we do.
I mean, I
in
get
real
it.
life. Yeah.
But
But
yeah,
I mean, like,
but it's complicated. And this
Yeah.
guy who
Sure.
has the gun that just shot the mom, he did it because he was under order.
Well, he may not have been the exact one, but you're right. Everyone there is doing
well,
it
and the
under
alternative
orders.
is like let these people infect the rest of the country.
Exactly,
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
is kind of what we're dealing with right
Right.
now, you know?
Are you guys advocating rounding people up and shooting them and then
No.
torturing their
Yes.
bodies?
Absolutely
Wow.
not. I just want to go on record as
I wanna
absolutely
go on record
not.
saying yes.
Yeah. But it is just a fucked up situation.
It is,
They
yeah.
interrogate the soldier a little bit.
Right. And
They
then
do, yeah.
we get just a second of exposition, which I love, which
Right.
is basically like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. This is my orders, you know? But Timothy Oliphant is like, okay, we've got to let you go. Otherwise, they will know we're here because they will know that you're missing.
Right. The deputy, he's like, please just let me go. I won't shoot.
Exactly.
And the
so he's-
deputy's like, we should kill him. And Timmy's all like, well, they'll definitely catch us if we do that.
Yeah.
Right. And he says, hey, that's my wife. She's pregnant. We're police officers and she's 17. So
Yeah.
please
Yeah.
don't get us killed.
Which
you know?
humanizes them. It's like really
Exactly.
smart.
Yeah, it
and
is.
it happens so fast, too. I love it.
And then they do give him his gas mask back. They give him his rifle back. And then he goes up, and there's like a guy who's coming into the barn looking for him.
Who's panicking, but you can't see it behind his face. He's like, hey, man, we're getting pulled out.
And then he's like, is anyone in here? And the guy who was just taken hostage is like, no, it's just me. Let's get out of here.
Well, he says, is there any crazies in here?
They
Yeah.
do. Yeah, you're right. They said the name of the movie. The way they shoot that is when they show the guy who was taken hostage, you see Timothy Oliphant in the corner, like with their guns on him.
Right.
But I do think he would have stuck to his word because he doesn't really want to kill civilians either.
Exactly.
Anyway.
But I did like it showed
Me
a little
too.
bit of humanity
Yeah,
in the
I liked
soldiers too. Yeah.
But I like what you're saying, Mikey, because there really are no villains other than the virus. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the people at the top that caused it. And even in that, it was an accident. I thought the whole movie, until we realized it was an accident, was going to be like a government experiment, like
Yeah.
the CIA was doing it to see
Right,
or
right,
whatever.
right.
And it's not that, which I like.
Okay, so now they're walking across an empty field and they eventually get to their house and they see their car has been burned out.
Yeah.
And she sees, I guess it's her baby blankets, but she immediately goes up to the laundry and starts taking it down off the line. And I thought that was a little strange.
It's just so they can have the conversation, just the two of them. But
I
yeah.
know, yeah. And she's saying the town is dead and everybody we know is dead and just really like nihilistic.
And the deputy's like, I'm right here, guys.
So they're in the garage and they uncover like Dukes of Hazzard style police car.
Yes.
Which, lucky for them, he had been working on because now they have a car that's not booted.
But it doesn't have wheels.
Oh,
so they're
they have
having
the
to
wheels
transfer
on it?
wheels onto it. Yeah. Did you guys
Yeah.
notice that?
The
No,
tires.
I didn't. That's
The
what-
wheels is the metal part that the tire goes around.
So, excuse me. The deputy gets busy transferring tires, not wheels, Mikey.
You got to get busy wheeling
Or
or
get
get
busy
busy dying.
But he gets busy tiring
He does, yeah.
and he moves the tires over.
He's getting
Yeah.
tired out.
Yeah.
Well, and so she's getting some clothes and stuff, and she's upstairs, and she walks past her nursery.
And Timothy Oliphant is downstairs getting medical supplies, to which Mikey said, I think I'd let my wife handle the medical supplies if she's a
Right.
doctor.
she has to get the laundry.
Yeah, I thought that was such a strange
Yeah.
moment because honestly, if I'm a sheriff and my wife's a doctor, I'm gonna let my wife handle what
Yeah,
we need.
I'll get the
Right.
guns, you get the medical supplies.
Absolutely.
Unless she made him a detailed list.
Or she might have trained him because they were very well stocked.
Yeah, I could see that.
Okay, so
maybe.
she goes into the nursery and she's like, "Oh, wouldn't it be nice if I could have raised my child in this nursery?" And then we slowly pan into the corner and
Oh,
we
so
see
creepy.
Yeah, this was effective. We see that Rory's wife, Crazy style, is
Yeah.
standing in the corner of the room.
And she looks half zombie.
She does, yeah. We can tell that she's crazy. Also, she's just standing there staring too, so that's bad. Then down to Timothy Oliphant reading the details of his wife's list and getting all of the appropriate medical supplies, and he hears the baby mobile in the crib going off. So he's like, "Oh,
That's a bad sign.
right."
Let me go check that out.
All right, and
So he does. He runs upstairs and he
Uh-huh.
goes in the nursery and he sees his wife like
Tied to a chair.
strapped down to a chair, right?
Mhm.
And then he gets got from behind.
Well, he pulls out his gun immediately. He gets hit in the behind, drops the gun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's not by the lady. It's
It's
by
by
the
the
son
son,
of the guy
yeah.
he killed earlier, who is also
Half
half
zombified.
crazified. Yeah.
Right, yeah. And as he's reaching for his gun,
Oh,
whoever it
shit.
is,
It's the mom.
It's
the mom does it, yeah.
Stabs his hand into the floor.
Oh.
and,
With a
my
kitchen
God.
knife. Ugh.
Thus begins one of the most tense and gross scenes, but also fucking badass.
Oh, my
scenes in
God,
the
it's
movie.
rough.
Ugh. Because his hand, like, it's stabbed there, and he's like, the mom is holding the gun and saying, "This is the gun that killed your father," and she's walking up to Judy and she's gonna
shoot his
Judy.
wife, and he's like, "I'm the one who shot him, you fucking bitch!"
Right, trying
And
to
then
like
she,
Jeff
stops.
Goldblum.
He
Yeah.
is like really diverting attention, but then it works because she looks
it does,
over.
yeah.
Well, you
And-
look at it cuts to the knife where his hands like trying to.
he's
pull
trying
up.
to move his hand up the knife. Oh my god.
Thinking about it is giving me like the willies.
Yeah. So then he pulls the knife out. It's still through his hand, and he stabs her in the neck with the knife that's still
Yeah,
through
because
his
when she
hand.
brings the gun and points it at him, he smacks it with his other hand. But yeah, the hand that was knifed to the ground, he pulls up so the knife is still through it, and then he like high fives her in the neck, which the knife goes through her neck.
It's fucking badass.
Which is when he gets infected, I believe.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the only part I have a little bit of a problem with in this movie.
But yeah, it's the only scene I have a
because
problem
he
with.
would definitely be infected.
And he thinks it's already established he thinks really fast in these situations.
Yeah.
I don't think he would have done it. I think he would have just like fought her in a different way.
Probably.
Not getting infected.
Either way it happens, and we
Right.
know now because we've seen the movie, he doesn't get infected.
right. And
But
I don't have a problem with
Yeah,
it.
it's whatever. It didn't like bother me, but
We should
Right.
acknowledge that it's the only part that only kind of bothered me.
Yeah.
I love this movie. Don't get me wrong.
yeah, same.
Yeah. So he stabs her and she falls down, and not so fast. The son is there pointing a gun at
I
him.
did sort of love this because the son has the slowest reflex time ever.
I will forgive that because sometimes the
He's
people with the
crazy.
virus have really slow, like.
That's fair.
That's
He may
true.
have been a little catatonic
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
moment. All right, that's fair.
But as he's about to shoot Timothy Oliphant, he gets shot through the window by the deputy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Who's
that's
a really
twice.
good shot.
He is a good
He's
shot.
amazing.
And so now, and everybody comes up to like check out the scene, and the deputy's there, and because the two bodies are moving, and he just double taps the fuck out
Yeah,
of
he's
both
not
of them.
playing. And
Yeah.
He's
I
not.
guess Zombieland came out the same year. Is that what you were saying, Jen?
Yeah. Well, I can't remember if it
You
was the same year.
surmised, you
I did.
guessed
I
it did.
supposed,
Yeah.
maybe.
So, I mean, if it did, that's where he got this idea because he double taps both of them.
So now, because he just double tapped everybody, Judy is thinking that the deputy might actually be sick now because what the fuck? That's crazy.
I don't know. I would probably be double tapping people.
I
I think
so
he's doing the
too.
right thing.
I do
But
too.
anyway, he's done changing the tires on the car. So they go down and get in the beat up police cruiser.
Right. And so now they're in the car, and Becca is coughing, and Deputy is asking if she's sick. And it's just kind of this paranoia, like nobody knows if anybody else is
Absolutely.
sick.
It's like right now, if you go to the grocery store and you have like the sniffles, everyone's like, huh?
Yeah. So they're in the car, and Timothy Oliphant's trying to like contain it, and he's like, "Don't lose your head." And there's kind of a tense moment, but then a helicopter sees them.
Not just a helicopter.
An Apache
It's-
attack
yeah,
helicopter.
It's amazing.
It's so cool.
I
Which I
wrote-
think is the model that we use for Flamecopter.
I think so, too.
I'll have to
Shout
talk
out
to
to
our
Elizabeth.
artist, Elizabeth, about that, but I'm pretty sure that's the proto that she used.
Well, I wrote in my notes that Mikey had a heligasm. because
Oh, he sure did.
I do like helicopters.
And honestly, we
Helicopters.
fist bumped because we're losers.
I think you elbow bumped.
We did.
You
We
guys
elbow
really
bumped.
celebrated this.
Yeah.
Because the helicopter is now coming back to them.
It was awesome though, Jen.
Yeah, the
It's a
helicopter's
cool
like,
helicopter.
"Huh? A car? And it starts turning around.
Yeah, so they did what I did anytime I was being chased by the police in Grand Theft Auto. I pulled into a car wash.
All right, so now they're in the car wash, and
Yes.
car washes are fun, guys. But
What
so
have you done in car washes?
it's fun. Like
Is
the
there
bristles.
no place you haven't made out, Jen?
I like when they're talking because David is like really tense, and he's like, "What magic road can't they see?" And I think he says a lot of things.
This is the only time he like has a breakdown.
Yeah, he's getting a little tense.
I think the movie is doing this to try and say any one of these people could be infected.
Yes.
Because everyone has sort of a little bit of a break here. The girl coughs, the deputy sort of loses his mind on her, and then Timothy and his wife start to sort of get at each other a little bit.
But yeah, I mean, and I do think they're setting it up that anyone
Pregnancy's the cure.
Yeah, it is.
Well, yeah.
That's what saves you.
It's what
That and
saves
lead-lined
humanity.
fridges. We'll get there.
Okay, but now Becca sees somebody, and then the car wash turns on. And this, it sounds like it would be really stupid, but it's really effective.
I can't believe how much you liked the scene. I
It's so
didn't
cool.
dislike the scene,
But
but
you
you
love it.
love car washes like Mikey and I love
I was
helicopters.
just gonna say that because they're so fun. Like
I think it's just something else. Watching something that you're responsible for really gets you going as an adult woman with kids.
it is really nice, and you just get to sit, and you don't have to worry
yeah,
about anything.
you just get to lay back
That's
and
my
relax.
whole life.
And
That's the patriarchy, Mikey.
it is. It's true.
With a little hint
Loneliness.
of white privilege and loneliness. Yeah.
Yes.
And those ingredients make up me.
All right, so
Welcome back to this episode of Understanding Mikey.
so they're trying to drive out of the car wash, but because they're all of the bubbles, they can't get traction.
I really found this scene very, very funny because the deputy sees something and starts shooting out the window.
Yeah.
And then Timothy Oliphant goes, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "I saw something. Or
I saw movement.
I saw movement." He goes,
There's movement
Everything
everywhere.
is fucking
Every
moving.
fucking thing is moving.
I know, I
love
loved
that.
it.
I love that. And then immediately the car gets ripped apart by Crazies.
Right, like
Yeah.
Crazies, they're punching in the windows and everybody. They're trying to drag everybody
Oh, yeah.
out, and somehow through the magic of car wash, they get through the car wash, and they're a little wet, but they're safe
Yeah.
inside the car.
This scene's not realistic because there's no like dryer at the end of the car wash.
There isn't. There's no blower. You're right.
Mm.
What Jen was going to say is that when you're that close to Timothy Oliphant, there's never
There's
a dry
never
moment.
a dry moment. Like a-
Is that what you're going to say, Jen?
no, I would never.
I
say
would
that.
never.
Okay, so they're driving out and they're looking out the rearview mirror, but surprise, there's a crazy head, and the crazy head wraps a hose.
That scared the
It
shit
did.
out of me.
That might have been the
And
biggest
then,
jump scare.
honestly, I laughed because of what happens is so unexpected.
Right.
Yeah.
Because he wraps a hose around Becky. It's Becky or
Becca.
Becca's neck, and she gets dragged out of the
She
car
does,
and hung.
and
So,
then she's hanging up.
This is
Hanging
the
Yeah.
moment where I think Todd might actually start liking horror movies because one, it was a scary scene. He didn't get super scared, and then two, he like enjoyed it.
Right, because he's like, I'm sorry, I know that's terrible that happened, but it was
I know.
funny. And we were
I
like,
think
that's
it's
why
the
we
first
love
time I've ever
horror.
laughed in that situation, and I did feel the obligation to be like, "Oh my god, I know that that's not funny."
Well, no,
Right.
we know death isn't funny, but we like horror movies.
because that's
Yeah.
part of watching horror.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
And
it's
that's part
insane.
of what makes jump scares fun too. Because
Yeah.
what happened for me is I was laughing because you got scared and I missed that they wrapped the thing around her.
Oh,
neck, you
yeah.
know? Yeah, so I think it's an effective jump scare too because it moves
Yeah, it
stuff
does.
back.
and then she gets dragged out the back, and she gets hung and died.
Yeah, and it's really sad.
It is very sad.
Yeah, and so they're getting out to go see if she's okay.
Everybody
and
just gets really hung up on it.
and so they're out.
I'm so sorry.
So they get out of the car and they're all three of them are out of the car, which is good because the helicopter or the plane blows up.
I love the deputy's reaction to that because the helicopter like blows up the car,
A missile,
right?
like a missile, just boom.
Oh
Right.
yeah, and then the helicopter flies over it. So you know it was the helicopter
Yeah.
that did it,
Right.
and then he's just like, fuck us, I guess."
I know.
I mean, that's a normal
Yeah.
reaction.
Well, yeah, because if she hadn't gotten pulled out of the car, they would all be
They
dead.
literally are saved by that crazy killing one of them, which is an insane sentence, but
Man.
that's what happened.
So now they're walking down the road, and we supposed that this was a good example of social distancing. And it reminded me of the Devil's Rejects shot where they're walking.
Yeah, because there's like it's a 2-lane road, right? And they're like taking up the whole road,
Right.
and like they're probably a good 6 feet away from each other.
Right. We see the deputy's truck.
Yeah, where he left it, like I don't
Right.
know, 15 minutes into the movie.
Right.
We don't
And-
actually see that part of it, but
We don't.
we know it happened.
Because he told us, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's undrivable. And so now we see another vehicle and it's approaching, and Timothy Oliphant's like, I'm going to fucking take
It's
this
the
car.
black government SUV.
It
Yeah.
is, yeah.
And Timothy Oliphant's like, "Oh, I'm a guy with a pistol. I'm gonna stop this SUV."
Right. With the power of his Oliphantness.
Honestly, he could have just done a blue steel and just made it stop, but he didn't.
I think the car would have just ran through him.
Oh, it would have.
personally.
It
Yeah.
would have either run him over
Well,
or just
yeah.
gone around him or whatever. Yeah.
Right. But it doesn't have to because Russ takes the tire
Spikes.
bonkers. Yeah, the tire spikes.
And he looks like he's like really amped up and excited to do this because he throws the spikes
But
across the
Who
street.
wouldn't be?
Honestly, it does look sort of dope. And he actually says it, but they edited it out so you couldn't hear him. When he throws it, he goes, "Whee!" Like Jenn was just
and
doing.
then he clicks his heels as he walks away.
Yeah.
He's like, let's see what happens. Because the thing, like,
They cut out the heel kick, but yeah. But the car hits it, or the SUV hits it, and then it flips away.
Right.
And then you see him start to run towards it. He's like, "Fuck yeah!" He's like super excited that he just
Right.
did that. Yeah, it's awesome.
yeah. And
He's like,
so-
I'm gonna kill him.
yeah.
And
And
he
this
does.
is when we found out that Mikey doesn't drive himself around or something. Because
This is where we find out that Mikey's a part of the 1%.
Right, because this guy, this redheaded guy, gets out of the SUV. Deputy Russ wants to shoot him, but Timothy Oliphant talks him down.
I want to talk to him.
And
Yeah.
Mikey asked, "Where's the driver?"
But where's the driver?
Yeah. Because Mikey's never touched
Where's
a
the
steering
chef
wheel.
that drives with him for his personal lunch?
Mikey's never touched a steering wheel in his life.
Yeah.
A steering wheel? How suburban.
I know. That's what simpletons use to direct their automobiles. I just tell my driver
So
where
we had to
go.
quickly explain that not everyone has a personal driver to Mikey.
Right.
And then we heard Timothy Oliphant sort of interrogate this guy.
Right.
And this is where we find
I
out
do
that it,
love this scene.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
where we find out that it was literally a accident.
Uh-huh,
No
it was-
one meant for it to happen. The
Yeah.
government did go in there to help sort of contain it.
Right.
And then those rednecks in that red truck sort of fucked everything
Fucked it
up.
The wife asks, "What's the incubation period?" He's like, 48 hours. You either have it or you're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he says it's a biochemical weapon designed to destabilize a community.
Which
we just
it
didn't
worked.
mean it to destabilize an American community.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then Timothy's about to talk to him a little bit more, and then a deputy just shoots him.
Yeah.
And so Timothy's real mad. They have a little confrontation.
They do, and this is where the deputy gets all the guns.
Right.
And is like making them walk in front of them.
Mm-hmm. Because they try to take his gun at first. And they're like, no, it's fine. I'll just hold it for you. It's heavy. And then he pulls a gun and he says, and like Timothy Oliphant's trying to de-escalate. And he says, like, just give him a minute to think about what he's doing.
Yeah.
And we're starting to think that he is crazy.
I mean,
But
he is. He definitely is at this point.
But he's pointing the gun at him and he says, 1, 2, 3. And instead of shooting, he says, that's how many times I've saved your life.
Which is true.
Which is true, too.
But a really dramatic way to say it.
It is. And to be fair, we don't ever really see any other time when he's trying to like be murderous with them, you know? And
Yeah,
I
but
guess
you
if it had moved along, he
At
probably
this point,
would
we
have.
all know he has it.
Right,
And
right.
it does seem like it progresses in stages because as they're walking, he shoots all the bullets out of the rifle and then drops the rifle, which to me was him sort of escalating the crazy. And that is
Right.
essentially what initiates Timmy's like, okay, I have to confront him.
Right,
And his
right.
wife's like, no, don't do that because you'll definitely get shot.
Right.
And then he sort of creeps up on him. And honestly, I don't think it's a bad idea because if he lets the crazy progress, he's definitely just going to kill him when he goes
Exactly.
full on
Right,
crazy.
right.
So he's got to have this window of time where he can reason with him to get close enough
Right.
to do what he does. And he gets close enough and punches him in the face.
Right.
And then takes the gun.
And he's laying on the ground, and it's really sad because his nose starts bleeding. Now, he did just get punched in the face, but it's crazy nosebleed.
Right.
And that's when he starts to realize he has it.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then he looks scared and he's like, I've got it, don't I?
Yeah.
Right. And he's like, remember that catfish I caught,
Yeah.
and like having this reminiscing
I really
moment.
do like where he's like, can I just walk with you guys for
I
a
do
while? And he's like,
too.
he knows he's going to die.
Yeah.
Right.
It's really sad, but I think very effective.
I do too, and he doesn't ask for the gun back because
No.
I think he just doesn't want to like go out because he could have asked him just shoot me right now, and it's good that he did continue to walk with
Yeah.
them, you know,
For the plot, at least.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah. So and they let him, and so now they're walking through fields, and they get to a roadblock that they can't get through, and so now deputy is saying like, let
Well,
me.
it's dark. It's dark now.
It's dark,
And
yeah.
there's a roadblock, armed military people, spotlights,
Right,
all that stuff.
But they can't get through it. And so he's saying, like, let me, like, you guys sneak through. I'll distract them. I'm going to die anyways. At least let it mean something.
Yeah.
And it's a kind of touching moment between the two of them.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. And then he goes up and he's like got his hands up in the air walking towards them and they're like yelling at him, spotlights on him. And then Timmy and his wife sort of creep through.
And my
Right.
favorite part about this is that he unloads the gun before he
does.
does
Yeah.
it. So like he's like, I'm not going to kill anybody unnecessary. It just
Right.
shows you how good of a person he is.
Yeah, I
And
like that
he's
because
not
then we
so
know.
sick that he's still not
Right.
still himself.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And so he got to die like knowing what he was doing.
Yeah, he has control over the situation more or
Right.
less.
Because he basically completes suicide by cop.
Yeah.
You know.
Yes.
Yeah, and because he raises up and they all shoot him, and it's really sad. But as he's
Well, I
dying,
mean, in fairness to them, he does pull the gun out. Even
does.
they can't see it's unloaded
Oh,
with
yeah.
nothing
Right.
in the chamber, but we know that because we saw him do that. But they
Right.
do what he wants him to do.
Right.
He's
Oh,
a
this
dead man
is
anyway.
one of my favorite parts because it shows his perspective looking up at all the armed men, and he's like, "Fuck you all for doing this."
yeah,
Yeah.
fuck you for what you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then all those barrels in his face,
Yeah.
and then it cuts back to Timothy and his wife, and you hear the shot that they shot him in the head. I guess. Yeah,
It's sad.
it is sad.
All right, so now they're at the truck stop and it's really empty and ominous, and they see a bunch of like bullet shells on the ground. And then they see a bunch of burned bodies in the cattle car that we saw earlier with the wristbands
Yeah.
around them. So we know, and I don't know if this was the plan to begin with or if it escalated to this plan because of that red truck.
I
But-
think that's what it is. Although
I
we
think
don't
that's
know.
I
probably
think at that
it.
point everybody just spread out and was trying to escape.
Yeah.
and so
Right.
like people probably made it to the truck stop and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Because they get out of the cages and they're like, okay, there's no way we can contain this.
Right.
Yeah,
anymore.
absolutely.
Yeah. So, but we see that even the healthy people, they killed all of them too, which were the people that Timothy Timothy Oliphant would have been with if he hadn't escaped.
Yes.
And so they're talking in the truck stop, and I like how he says, like, if you want to stay here and die, I'll stay here and die with you.
Well, I mean, I like the scene. I like the scene because she's like, "There's nowhere to go.
Yeah,
Right.
we're fucked more or less.
We're fucked." And, and he's like, "Well, if you want to sit here and die, I'll die." And I guess
Right.
it just shows you how solid they are.
Yeah. But so he starts going to get in the truck stop materials, and he gets a Zippo, which is going to be important, and he gets some outfits, which are going to be cute later. And so
You love a man in a sweater.
I do, man. They've separated, which is not super smart, but whatever.
No,
Maybe they
it's
need a little alone time.
Yeah, sure.
You know.
Yeah. No, it's just what they have to do in these movies to make it more,
Exactly.
tense.
Because she sits down to eat. She sits down next to some cake that looks delicious.
She didn't even eat the cake.
She
She got a
doesn't.
glass of Aquafina water. Oh, and this is where we see the guy behind her. Yeah, they do a really good job of not making these jump scares, which I appreciate it because it doesn't make it super scary.
Right.
But
Right.
it
Oh, but
amps
it makes
up
it
the
really
tension.
creepy,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so Timothy, he goes and he sees the trunk full of bodies. So now they know that the hunters are there. And then the lights go out. And she's in the kitchen and she's got a knife. And then they find her. And this all happens really fast. But so she's running through the truck stop and she's hiding in a cooler. And there are tons of bodies there. And we start to see the hunters like menacing around looking for her with a knife. And then she's about to creep up to the plastic curtain to get out. And then Timothy Oliphant grabs her.
Yeah, which was another sort of scary moment or
Right,
jump
right.
scary moment. And he's like, we got to fucking go.
Exactly. So they go to the truck.
When they open that door and the big ass trucker falls out of it, I was like, oh my God, what is happening?
Because he's dead.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was scary. But they don't check the back of the truck. Although there's nothing in the back of the truck.
No, there's nothing there, but they
Right.
don't check it, which was
They
a
don't.
problem for me because I've seen
Right.
Cabin in the Woods.
Exactly.
But they start trying to start the car, and she's like, find the key, find the key, find the key. And he's trying all these keys, and he doesn't have the right
Can't
one.
find 'em, yeah.
And so he goes to the trucker that just fell out, finds his keys, and tries to pull them, but they're like on a zip thing.
Uh-huh.
So like
So he can't get 'em
sticks, he
out.
can't get them. And then you see one of the hunters break the glass and start like shooting at them. And this is
Right.
where they split up because she stays in the cab of the truck and closes the door, and he goes under the truck.
Right. And this is so cool because
Yes.
he goes into like the where you would do like maintenance on the
changes.
car. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I like when
awesome.
the camera's panning and you see her fighting and him fighting underneath.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, when the guy
Yeah.
with the gun's walking to the truck and you see them fighting under it, it's really well done. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a crazy in the truck pit, and he is probably one of the most effective looking crazies. I
Yeah.
think because his
Yeah.
like
Well, his eyes are so fucking like
they are
insane.
and he just looks so menacing. And we haven't seen him be a normal person, so he might
Yeah.
as well be like a super crazy zombie at this
yeah,
point.
absolutely.
Yeah, so they start fighting in the pit. He pushes some kind of oil cart at him, and
It's
then
where they do oil changes. Yeah.
Okay, so the oil cart change whatever mechanism thing. And he lights the Zippo. He lights the oil with the Zippo and it lights him on fire. And so then he grabs the keys and rolls out of the pit. And it's all happening really fast and it's really awesome. Meanwhile,
Yeah, how does the wife dispatch with the other guy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because when he gets in the truck,
Uh-huh.
he does the same thing they did and doesn't check the back.
Exactly.
And then she learns the lesson of why you always check the back as she teaches the lesson of why you always check the back and blows
Right.
his head off.
Yeah.
it's awesome.
It is awesome, but they don't ever address how they quickly clean off the blood off the glass
No.
in the inside of that truck.
Well,
so
they
Timothy
just get the
Oliphant,
squeegee from the gas station.
Did you
That's
not
what it
see
is.
them go through the car wash? Tom?
Yeah.
we're at two different vehicles at this point. But no, Timothy Oliphant, if you think about it, has to jump in the bloody soaked seat where like the brain matter is of that guy and then drive out of there with like a blood stain right in front of him.
Well, you know what she's doing instead of cleaning that thing? She's growing his fucking child. So she can sit back and take a
I'm
break.
not saying that she should be in
Wow.
charge of the cleaning. I just am pointing out how funny it is that he had to sit in brain matter to drive away.
And they're driving through the night, and it's really cool. And she's looking at the map. They're trying to get to the shortest road to Cedar Rapids that's like off. I guess it's not off
Shortest,
the map.
straightest road, yeah.
Right. Like least likely to be seen. And they're
Yeah.
starting to hear on the Breaker 19 radio, they're hearing a countdown. And I think it's at like 30 or 40
No, they have an army walkie-talkie.
They stole it from the truck
Okay.
stop. Yeah.
But so they're hearing a countdown, and it's like at 30 or 45 seconds or something.
She's like, what happens at the end? He's like,
I don't know, but we want to get away from that
Yeah.
town.
Exactly.
And she's
So
like, go faster, go faster.
And she's like, you know what? Fuck your unborn baby and seatbelts.
Exactly.
yeah, like
I'm gonna
she
stand
will not.
behind you.
She will not sit down and buckle up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Well, and so
insane.
they're driving like probably at top speed for this thing. They're driving
Yeah.
really, really fast. And then it hits to zero. And I love how this plays out because nothing happens for a couple of seconds. And then it's just this bright white flash.
Yeah.
And then we see and hear the explosion. It looks like a big nuke.
It
you
is
know?
a nuke.
Well,
yeah.
it'd be a small nuke. Small
Yeah.
nuke.
Well, I mean,
but there's a mushroom
is there a
cloud.
small nuke? Like,
Yes.
it's big.
If
I
you
mean,
get
it
hit by
blows
a
up
nuke,
the
it feels
small
big.
town, but it doesn't blow up like New York City.
No.
Right.
No. Yeah.
It's not 50 nukes.
Yeah.
But so it's like they're watching it happen and then they're noticing that there's like the shock wave coming after and it's going faster. And I was afraid that it was going to like 2012, like almost get to the back of the truck while they're driving away, but it doesn't. It takes the truck out.
Yeah,
and
it does.
Like, tumbles the truck a little bit, which I don't know how she survived without a seatbelt on for that.
Yeah.
Movie magic.
Hey,
Movie
I'll let
magic.
it go because I'm on board. So
Yeah.
So they get out of the truck and they're both more or less okay.
Dazed, but okay.
Yeah,
And
maybe
then
a
they
little
walk back
confused.
towards the street. No.
I
Yeah.
love the visuals of this scene, though.
I do too.
It's really well done for
It's-
2010.
Yeah.
It's really
Because
well
it was
done.
pitch
cool.
dark, and now there's like the orange glow.
Mhm.
As they're getting out of the truck, it sort of looks like it's like daybreak.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's not.
Mhm.
It's nuke break.
And we see the big mushroom cloud
Yes.
in the distance
Yeah.
too. Yeah. And now we cut to them like later in the day and they've changed into their truck stop outfits and it's really cute. But they're walking through a field and in the distance we see a city.
Cedar
Yes.
Rapids.
Cedar
Right.
Rapids, baby.
But then we see
Enemy of the state sort of
Yeah.
zoom up.
Satellite footage of them walking.
and
Yeah.
it says Cedar Rapids population whatever initiate quarantine.
Yeah. So it's like the movie is just restarting with a bigger set piece of
Right.
Cedar Rapids instead of whatever small town they were in.
And
That's
that's,
the
the
movie.
movie.
Yeah.
Roll the credits.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So having seen the movie, having talked about the movie, what did you guys think?
Loved it.
I love this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's rad. It's a great
It
movie.
holds
It
up.
was-
Yeah.
I
it
really
did.
appreciate it. I really like it. I think it's well directed, well written, well
Mhm.
acted. I was like, I don't know why it's not more famous in the horror
I
community.
know.
I really only had two very small complaints, and that was the knife and how he didn't get infected that way, and then the wife not holding on at the very end. But
Yeah.
I didn't care. Like,
And
I did not
Right.
care.
As remakes go, I haven't seen the original, but like this is really good. And
It
I don't
is,
understand
yeah.
why it's not more popular in the horror community.
And I wonder if it just when the time it came out, it just like people were exhausted
We're
or
just
like
over it, maybe?
right, or
Yeah.
like they were tired of remakes, you know. But I remember like it not being a big deal when it came out, but it's really good.
It is really good.
It keeps moving and it goes in places you
it's
don't
just
expect
so
it to.
well paced.
I mean, this movie
Mm-hmm.
starts off with a guy walking onto a baseball field with a shotgun and him getting shot, and ends with that town getting nuked.
and that's the most boring part of that film is him
Right.
being shot. In that
Yeah,
field.
like it goes places,
But
man.
it doesn't feel like it goes from 1 to 11. Like it feels like
no,
everything
it's a
that
steady
happens
increase.
feels logical.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So let's talk box office.
Okay.
All right. So what do you guys think the production budget of this movie was?
Probably pretty big. I'd say
15 million?
5 million.
Okay, it was $19 million.
Oh, nice.
Oh, I'm getting
So
better.
Mikey was closer, right? But I mean, you're right. There's like a lot of set pieces of this. There's a fucking Apache, a helicopter. There's a lot of explosions.
It looked like a lot of practical effects too.
I don't know if it was. Jen might have some fun facts about that, but
But like it's
it
just
looks great.
it holds up and
Yeah.
nothing really looks CGI-ish until the nuke.
Right.
So what do you guys think it made in its domestic run?
I really hope it made its budget back, but I don't know if it did.
I think it probably only made like 30 million.
15.
It made $39 million domestic, so it did make its budget back. It made another 17 international, so it's a total of
Nice.
56 million. And then it made about $15 million in domestic DVD and Blu-ray sales.
It could have been timing too, because this came out right at the recession, and movies just weren't selling.
Well,
a
that's
lot
true.
back
Yeah.
then.
And
Yeah.
honestly, it still made its money back and then some. It did
Yeah.
very, very well. When it came out, it was the weekend of February 26, 2010, and it was third at the box office. The first movie was Shutter Island. It was in its second week.
Oh.
And then Cop Out also came out that week. And honestly, didn't beat it by a whole lot. And then Crazies was right next to it.
I'm gonna have to go ahead and say that this podcast has taught me that if you are making a horror movie, don't release it in February. Even if it's good, it won't make money.
I think the biggest problem for that is that it went up against Shutter
Me
Island.
too, which is
The Shutter-
also a horror movie, but with
Exactly.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Is it a horror movie?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never seen it, but
Shutter Island is good.
is it? Is it a
It's
horror
good.
movie though?
I really like
I don't think it's
I would-
horror.
I mean, I think it's psychological, but I would definitely put it in the horror element.
All right, well, that's box office. Jen, you got some fun facts for
I
us?
do have some fun facts.
Nice.
Although, because it wasn't a huge movie, I don't have a ton of them.
Aw.
All right. So we talked about how this was a remake of the 1973 film by George Romero of the same name. Apparently, there was an alternate ending planned. I don't know if it was shot or not. But the zoom out thing at the end where they're going to Cedar Rapids didn't happen. But we see David have an outburst and a nosebleed.
Yeah, well, okay, that would make sense with the is he infected or not?
Exactly. Yeah. And it could be that that's what that was leading to, and they ended up changing the ending. I prefer the one they used.
I do.
a
I prefer
lot
the one they
more.
used too.
Yeah, because I mean, as much as like we argue about whether we like nihilistic endings, with this one, I really want them to get away.
Yeah,
you know?
I did too.
Yeah, so
I'm fine
happy.
with it. It also sets it open for a sequel with Timothy
Right.
Olyphant, which
Yeah.
I don't think you make this without Timothy Olyphant.
Oh
Right.
no,
So,
of course
absolutely.
not. And
So-
I'm even on board with Rhoda Mitchell. I think it's Michelle or something. Whatever. I like her. The
Yeah.
actress who plays Judy.
Oh, his wife? Yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
I mean, she's not deserving of an Oliphant, but listen, she does a great job in this movie.
She does, yeah. So the first idea for these infected were for them to be zombies, but they thought that was kind of tired and cliche at that point, and it was 2010, so there was just a lot of zombie stuff happening at that time. And I think it was kind of like right on the tail of like the big zombie boom.
Gotcha.
You know, they wanted them to be more like hyper alive and to appear to be stressed. And so it almost seems like they have super strength, but it's more just like kind of a manic kind of murderous.
I felt
you
that,
know?
yeah.
And honestly, when they're in the nursery, like they have dialogues, like they have
do.
lines, so they're not zombies.
Oh,
Which I think
Right.
is creepy.
I
do
love it. Yeah, I
too.
thought it was great.
Because it's just like the virus just like takes away your conscience, you know, and it's
And
just
amps up your aggression.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But it's not like Rage in 28 Days Later where it's like 1 to 11, you know,
Yeah.
and you're all of a
Well,
sudden
it's
a zombie.
different than that because it's less predictable.
Right, which
Right.
which
It's
makes
just like
them,
totally crazy.
And I'm
Agreed.
not shitting on 28 Days Later because I love that movie, but I
That's
like
another
that
Thirsty
this
Jen
is,
movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I like that this is a little different because it allows for that psychotic element too, which I
Agree.
think is really creepy.
Yeah.
Okay, so the makeup for this was inspired by rabies and tetanus.
Oh, no.
Okay.
And a disease called Stevens-Johnson syndrome, which is a severe skin rash.
Yeah,
and
I don't know who Steven Johnson is, but I'm going to say he had a rough time.
Yeah, man.
They're probably the doctors that discovered it.
Right, their friend Bob had a real hard time.
It's okay.
I looked up some pictures of this thing, and it looks like there's like the black parts of your skin. I think it's like a necrosis of your skin where parts of it start to die.
Gross.
But
okay.
so like the veiny black
Yeah.
stuff that we see, that is directly inspired by Stevens-Johnson syndrome.
All right.
So the makeup took about 3 hours, which is not super long, but I
No,
think it's
like,
effective.
Yeah, it looks good.
It really does, yeah. And the contacts that they wore covered their entire eye, like the
Yeah.
front part, and
Yeah.
they had to get drops every 5 minutes.
Yeah, I've heard they're super uncomfortable.
Yeah, because if they didn't get those drops, they would have permanent eye damage. Too.
Yeah.
So, and I really liked them. It wasn't over the top, and they still looked like people, which is what I liked.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
Okay, so Elizabeth Banks apparently turned down the role of Judy in this
What?
movie.
I
know.
love
Really?
Elizabeth Banks.
I do
She
too.
is awesome. Yeah.
Well, because she was also in Slither, and I haven't seen Slither, but she thought the role was very similar to what she played.
It
in
is kind of
Slither.
very similar.
Yeah. KCRG is a real news channel in Iowa. So there's a news channel that's playing at some point in this movie, and it's a real Iowa channel. And the guy who's delivering the news, his name is Bruce Ayoun, and he is a real newscaster.
That's
for them.
oh,
cool.
nice. Yeah, that's very cool.
And they didn't shoot everything in Iowa, but I do know that they shot a lot of it in Iowa.
That makes sense because it looks
looked like a
like
real town.
Iowa.
It
Yeah.
did, yeah. And those are my fun facts.
Well, thank you
Oh,
for your
thank-
fun facts, Jen. So, Jen, let's do that scary scale.
Hey, listeners, our scary scale is a scale we use to rank how scared we were by the movie today. It's not a ranking of the quality of the film. It's how scared we were today when we watched it. Our 1 example is Ghostbusters, and our 10 example is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. All right, Todd, what you got?
So, yeah, I'm going to give it a 3. I feel like it was not super scary. It was a great movie, but really action oriented, which I liked. And there were a few jump scares that got me. So, I'd give it a 3, but it's not super scary. I think you could watch this as a horror virgin.
Yeah, Mikey?
I'm going to give it a 1.
Oh, jeez, because you're dead inside.
Mikey discovered a sound effect maker on his phone.
So Mikey gives it a 1. I am giving it a 3 also.
Really? Okay, cool.
Yeah. I think it's effectively scary and it's really creepy in parts, but also because of everything that's going on right now, I kind of was seeing some of this and like thinking about it in a little bit different context, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't think we're going to get to the point that this movie does.
I mean, we're halfway there.
But it also like made me like I felt like I was in the shoes of the characters a little more than I normally
It's
would
way
have.
different watching this like The Stand when there's like not a pandemic. Like we're in
Exactly.
a global pandemic, which
Yes.
is like a science fiction concept until 3 weeks ago. Or like
Exactly.
2 months ago, depending on which party you subscribe to politically.
Oh, wow. I mean, there's a lot of truth behind what you just said.
All right, yeah, so I'm giving it a 3.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's effective, but so much fun. Like for a movie that's that scary, like it's really fun.
It's a
to
fun
watch.
action movie as well.
And
Yeah.
that's our scary scale.
So this week you guys made me watch The Crazies. What are you guys
Yes.
making me watch next week?
You
Mikey?
guys. They're giving me my own month on the podcast.
I don't know what we were thinking, but yes, that is happening.
That was a mistake. for
April
sure.
is Mikey month.
This is where you need your sound effects, or like.
Little Camina Burana there.
Will you put that in?
No, we'll get sued by Carl Orff. So what are we watching?
What are we watching? What did I pick,
Oh, my
Jen?
God.
We're
Mikey.
watching They Live.
We are watching They Live.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, I actually watched a trailer for this for Patreon a long time ago because we talked about doing it a long time ago and then never ended up doing it then.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see it.
If we live
It looks insane.
to record.
Yes.
So we'll see. Anyway, so hey, guys, watch They Live.
Yeah, check out They Live for next week, guys. We actually got a bunch of reviews recently. For Mikey, read this in a Savannah, Georgia accent. It's from Kendra Spring. Oh, I wonder if that's the chick from
that's the chick
from
Jenn. Yeah, I love her. Yeah, she's great.
Read this in a Savannah, Georgia accent.
I feel like that's something you can easily do because you're from Georgia.
No, you're from
I'm from North
Mississippi.
Georgia.
I thought you were
North
from
I grew up in
Mississippi.
North Georgia and went to school in Mississippi.
So
Okay, so this should be easy for you, is what you're saying. Got to get into character. Let's do it.
Well, I do declare,
Oh, that's not how it starts.
No.
That's Mikey getting into character.
I discovered the hard version relatively recently on the Twitter. Michael
On the Twitter.
Ruffman of The Losers Club and Consequence of Sound
Oh, hey.
recommended their episode on Sinister. And as that was one of the movies to lay waste to my poor mommy brain, I jumped at the chance to hear the analysis of it.
What would you call what we do analysis?
I would call what I do analysis.
That's fair. I'll agree with that.
Coming from the Losers Club, a nerdtastic deep dive in literary and pop culture dissection of my favorite author, what I found to my delight and surprise was the equivalent of 2 a.m. beers and late-night exhausted hilarity of a midnight showing post-mortem with my very best friends.
I think that's on track.
Yeah.
I like that
I
description.
feel like that's a very apt, astute description of
I
us.
think so too.
As an American expat in rural Japan for the last 4 years and a former actress starved for the bohemian pulse of the city.
This is a very well written
I know.
review.
I love
Listening
it.
to this trio gives me a burst of nostalgia so sharp it nearly stings.
Aww.
Man, this is like a poetic
I
review.
know. This is a journey.
Everyone else needs to step up their review game.
All that is a melodramatic way of saying I nearly pissed myself laughing several times per episode.
Oh, man. Oh,
Thank you for providing so much joy with every episode.
Aw.
For creating a Facebook group filled with oddballs
No, that's
and
us.
misfits
Yep.
and the kind of
Sounds
love
right.
and support I've yet to find anywhere else online.
oh, that's super sweet.
Aw.
and to
true.
Todd
Oh, that's me.
for bravely subjecting yourself to getting the living daylights scared out of you and being laughed at on a weekly basis.
Wait, am I being laughed at on this podcast?
Yeah.
Oh,
We're not supposed
I mean, no.
No.
We're laughing with you.
good.
to. We're
Good.
laughing near you.
That feels
Thank
better.
you for your service. 5 stars.
Aw.
Wow, that was an amazingly
so
well-written,
sweet.
awesome 5-star review, Kendra Spring. Thank you so much.
Also,
you.
well read.
Yeah, I'll say you did a great job.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the best review reading I've done.
That
Yeah.
was pretty good.
That was
Now,
like one take.
I will
If
say,
you need me to stroke that ego, Mikey, I'm here to stroke it.
is
Yeah.
that why you're stroking the mic right now like that?
No, it's not.
Stroking the Mikey.
Ooh.
Ew. Is that what you say
Oh, yeah.
to girls?
No,
Talking to my mic.
I barely talk to girls.
Well, you talk. They just don't necessarily talk back all the time. All right, guys, and if you want us to read your 5-star review, leave us a 5-star review, and we'll have Mikey read it. Leave a funny accent like we just did, or something silly that we can have some fun with, and we will read your 5-star review.
Yeah, thank you.
We are a member of the Consequence of Sound Podcast Network, so if you would do us a favor and check out one of their great shows like Kyle Meredith with This Must Be the Gig, The Assembly, The Halloweenies, The Losers Club podcast.
The Opus,
The
Fifth
Opus,
Dimension,
yeah.
and their new show Ghost Echoes.
Yes.
Yeah, and you can also check out their website Consequence of Sound because they have pieces about music and pop culture running all the time.
Absolutely. And you can check out our website at horrorvirgin.com where you'll get Jen's blog and links to the merch store. And if you want to follow us online on socials, we are at Horror Virgin.
Yeah.
And if you feel like you want to help financially support the show, please do it. Patreon.com/horrorvirgin. We got a lot of great levels with a lot of great things, a lot of bonus episodes, and in fact, we're about to record one of those right now.
Yep.
You get 2 of those a month, a lot of great video content, awesome stuff like that. And if you want some daily free content, join the Facebook group.
Guys, that's going to be it for
Yeah.
us, guys. My nose has been bleeding, so I think I need to go check
We need
that
to
out.
leave. Yeah, Mikey
Is it
needs
that
to
time?
go.
I'm,
Oh, God.
well, if you were wondering who I was going to kill first, it's Mikey.
Thanks for creating a diversion, Mikey. Bye.
Have a great week.
Oh, I'm Jen.
Hi, Mikey.
So-
And I'm your horror virgin Todd,
Fuck, we
guys.
fucked that all up.
It's like we went crazy.
Now have a great pandemic.
Or have we gone crazy?
Yeah.
All right. That's going to be it for us.
Have a great pandemic.
Love you, mean it. Don't get arrested.
Yeah, be careful.
See you guys next week.
Is
See
that
you at the
your new thing now?
Bye. COVID nerds.
Ooh, it's topical.
Have you heard of Typhoid Mary?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm HPV Hank.
Oh.
Consequence Podcast Network.